Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a murderer who you know all too well was found not guilty by reason of insanity here in Seattle, showing there isn't really a justice system here anymore. But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Last night I was up late and I saw the news about this horrible airplane crash at LaGuardia Airport. I saw the video, I heard the air traffic controller sounds, and it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. The more and more we find out about this thing, even though everybody went to their political corners immediately. Oh, it's because of Trump and the air traffic controllers. No, it's because of the bad standards for pilots. No, everybody's wrong. This seems to be, right now, a tragic accident of human error. I had to speak to a couple of airplane experts last night to understand this, and this morning. And what I found out from a few of them is that the way this normally works is you can't just drive a car or a truck or anything else across a runway. You got to get permission before crossing the runway. So any vehicles that are out there, be they emergency services, even if they're luggage carriers, and they got to go across a runway, they got to talk to the tower who's controlling what's going on the runways.
Seems like a gun range sort of arrangement.
Exactly. So this is the recording of the air traffic controllers last night. And I think this shows that we have a really, really horrible case of human error here.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195 to stop there, please. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Delta 2603, go around, runway heading 2000. Jet 646. Jet 646, I see you collide with a vehicle here. Just hold position. I know you can't move. The vehicles are responding to you now.
Is the runway closed?
Delta 2603, go around. Runway heading 2000.
Heading 2000, go around. Delta 2603.
LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 2, runway 4 is closed, correct?
Yes. Go on to runway 4 now. Proceed on runway 4. You have access.
Tower, car 90, runway 422 is closed at this time.
90, roger.
LaGuardia Tower, vehicle 98.
98. Vehicle 98.
Vehicle 98, please show at this time. Runway 422 is closed. I repeat, runway 422 is closed at this time.
Tower, car 90, LaGuardia Airport is closed at this time.
It's pretty horrible. And what you see in the video is even worse, because what you see happening is there's a whole bunch of emergency vehicles that are going to an emergency at a gate. And this Air Canada flight is in the middle of landing. So they have just landed. It looks like they're trying to do what they do. You know, you speed up a little bit, then you put on the air brakes and you slow down. And it actually, from the initial reports, it seems like the pilots tried to stop as hard as they could, but then there were no more pilots because there was no more cockpit. So what happened was you had a fire truck and emergency vehicles on their way to a medical emergency at a different gate. They ask for permission to cross the tarmac, and this plane's coming in at the exact same time. The plane hits the fire truck, and in the video, at least I'm getting better at this from a personal standpoint, where I warned Zach what he was about to see before, going, hey, check this out, because it's horrific. It's really horrific, and it's tragic. And I'm sure people will politicize this, but from my perspective, it's not the pilot's fault. It's not the air traffic controller's fault. It's a guy who made a mistake. So I guess technically it is the air traffic controller's fault if that's what they find out in the accident report, and mistakes happen. And everybody's going to try and politicize this. They are. But it looks like a horrible, tragic mistake. And now think about that air traffic controller who has to live with this. We know the two pilots, they're dead. We don't know the status of the guys in the fire truck, but that thing flipped over like the car in Casino Royale, like what happened to that Aston Martin. That thing flipped over a bunch of times. The front of the airplane is gone. A stewardess was ejected, and she was wearing her seatbelt and everything on landing. She got ejected out of the airplane. Somehow she survived. How anybody on that airplane survived, those pilots basically at the last minute did whatever they could to stop and probably saved the lives of a lot of passengers. It's a horrible accident. Unless there's a reason to politicize this thing, please don't make assumptions. Wait until the accident report comes out because it's pretty terrible. Now, if you do want to politicize something, we can talk about other things that are happening at the airport. For example, ICE going to the airports. Now, I got no problem whatsoever with ICE being at the airports. You know why? You know where you might find a whole bunch of illegal aliens? Is trying to get on an airplane, right? I will never forget this. When I was flying out for a Turning Point USA convention, not last year, not the year before that, it was the year before that. It was the height of Biden's immigration mess. And I land at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's Saturday night. It's late Saturday night because I finished Sabbath here, then I get on an airplane and I fly down to Phoenix. And I'd already missed the first day, but I come in late. So I land at the airport. The only people there are going to the Turning Point convention. The rest of the airport, empty. As I'm walking through Sky Harbor Airport, there's illegal aliens everywhere. Everywhere. Oh, Ari, you're just being racist. How do you know they were illegal aliens? Well, aside from judging them by a little bit of racial profiling, they were all sleeping on the floor. Nobody had any luggage at all. But you know what they did have? Those manila envelopes with all the stuff the Department of Homeland Security used to give you under the Biden administration. Everywhere, all over the place. And I said, if I wasn't so tired, I might actually do some reporting and film this whole thing. Nope, somebody else beat me to it because they left Turning Point Convention early to film the whole thing. And you better believe the year after that, that airport was empty of illegal aliens the weekend of the Turning Point USA convention because they didn't want a repeat of what happened the year before. I saw the lines at the airport that were for illegal aliens who didn't have any ID whatsoever to get on airplanes. Now, why is ICE at the airports? ICE is at the airports because right now the Democrats will not fund TSA. I will remind everybody that TSA was supposed to be a private agency until some Democrats did some favors for some people and made it so that you have to pay for TSA. In a perfect world, all the airlines would chip in together and the airport would chip in together and that would pay for security. But instead, the taxpayer is funding it. Look, you want to say the taxpayer funds the cops? You want to say they fund the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol? I hear the argument. But now you have a problem where they're subjected to the whims of Congress. And now if these guys haven't been paid in a while, what do? Well, if they're not going to be paid in a while and you got people calling in sick and you got the Democrats refusing to fund anything because they say the more airport chaos we have, the worse this looks for Trump, then you know what you're going to have? You're going to need to find solutions. And President Trump said it was his idea to actually send the ICE agents out to the airports.
Whose idea was that to put ICE at the airport?
We're dealing really...
Whose idea was it?
Mine. That was mine.
Can I ask you
That was like the paperclip. You know the story of the paperclip? 182 years ago, a man discovered the paperclip. It was so simple. And everybody that looked at it say, why didn't I think of that? ICE was my idea. First person I called was Tom Hoffman. I said, what do you think? He said, I think it's great. Then I saw today there was some masks on. I didn't think the masks were appropriate. I put out a statement and I asked them, would it be possible to take off the mask? Because they should wear a mask when they're dealing with the murderers and the thugs let into our country.
So, sending the ICE agents to the airport was Trump's idea. And it seems like it's a pretty good one. In fact, even CNN had to admit that ICE has fixed those massive lines you were seeing in Atlanta's airport.
Finally, we can take a deep breath here. The numbers have dropped off. The lines are getting shorter. I think the average wait time now is under 40 minutes. So if you have a flight to catch today, it's a good time to come to Hartsfield-Jackson International.
So even CNN is admitting that it's getting better with ICE there. In fact, I went to check SeaTac because I got a flight later this week. And I wanted to see what the lines were looking like. Do I need to save a spot? So far at SeaTac, they don't seem so bad. If you're flying today and you find it different, let us know, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. But the absolute fear-mongering, panic porn, as it's called, that the Democrats were doing. Oh, my God, he's sending ICE to the airports. They're going to be rounding people up at airports. This was Hakeem Jeffries, discount Barack Obama.
Thank you for being here this morning, sir. What's your response to what Tom Hoffman revealed here?
Well, good morning. Great to be with you. There are three things that have been true since Donald Trump and Republicans came back into power last January. Life is more expensive, life is more chaotic, and life is more extreme. The last thing that the American people need are for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports all across the country, potentially to brutalize or in some instances kill them. We've already seen how ICE conducts itself. These are untrained individuals when it comes to doing the current job that they have for the most part, let alone deploying them in close exposure and highly sensitive situations at airports across the country.
People are going to die because Donald Trump sent ICE agents to the airports. Even CNN is admitting it, that it's perfectly fine, that it actually helped out, and it actually helped relieve the pressure at the airports. Now, Hakeem Jeffries said the quiet part out loud. Why are they not funding TSA? Why are they not funding the Department of Homeland Security? Well, here's why.
People, it's the reason why we are in a DHS shutdown right now, because Republicans have refused to agree to the type of bold, transformative, meaningful, and dramatic reforms we are demanding in order for the Department of Homeland Security funding bill to move forward. And I won't go through all of the demands, much of which we've talked about repeatedly in the public, but one of those demands is keep ICE out of sensitive locations. And we've defined that as schools, houses of worship, hospitals, and polling sites. We want an explicit prohibition that ICE can go nowhere near any polling sites in the United States of America. It's one of our...
Whoa. He doesn't emphasize the hospitals. He doesn't emphasize the schools. He doesn't emphasize the houses of worship. He emphasizes the polling places twice. Why would you need ICE at the polling places if illegals aren't voting? Oh, you mean that ICE being there stops illegals from showing up because they're worried they might get caught? Why should he care if ICE is at the polling locations? Because he said the quiet part out loud. They know that the illegal aliens are voting. And if the illegal aliens think that ICE is going to be at the polling locations, it is less likely that they actually show up. So he said the quiet part out loud. In fact, today, and we're going to discuss this a little bit later in the show, the Supreme Court is taking up the issue about voter ID and mail-in balloting. This is all part of a case they're considering. The Seattle Times did so much fear-mongering over it, they had to change their headline. Not only did they get it wrong, but they got slammed on social media for being so wrong. And the Democrats just want to hold on to power. They are desperate to hold on to power. Their polling is terrible. It's in the toilet. So they know the only way they're going to win is if they try their shady tricks. But their shady tricks actually cost people their lives. Unlike sending ICE agents to airports, which means they find illegal aliens, which means they're helping out the Department of Homeland Security. Hey, you didn't want them in cities rounding up illegals. Well, now they're at the airports just helping TSA. You guys caused this mess. You guys caused this problem. And now you're saying, oh, Donald Trump. But the Democrats, you'll never hear them take any responsibility whatsoever for the damage they have caused with the open borders policies. For example, John Fetterman, we played the clip last week where John Fetterman said, you'll never hear my side of the aisle talking about Lake and Riley, and they should. Well, now, unfortunately, we have a new Lake and Riley. A Venezuelan illegal immigrant has been arrested in connection with the fatal shooting of an 18-year-old Loyola University Chicago student near the campus on Thursday. According to a report by the Chicago Tribune, the 25-year-old suspect, who was wearing a mask when he gunned down 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman of Westchester County, New York. Gorman was walking with her friend shortly after 1:30 a.m. on Thursday along Chicago's lakefront when the gunman approached the group, pulled out a weapon, and opened fire, striking her in her head. She was pronounced dead at the scene. According to the Chicago Police Department, no other injuries were reported. The suspect was reportedly identified just minutes after the shooting due to a distinct limp. The Department of Homeland Security later identified the suspect as Venezuelan national Jose Medina. He was caught and released at the border under the Biden administration in May of 2023. That same year, he was also released from local custody following a shoplifting arrest in Chicago, which is a sanctuary city. Acting Secretary Lauren Biss said in a statement, Sheridan Gorman had her whole life ahead of her before this cold-blooded killer decided to end her life. She was failed by open border policies and sanctuary politicians who released this illegal alien twice before he went on to commit this heinous murder. We are calling on Governor Pritzker and Chicago sanctuary politicians to commit to not releasing this criminal illegal alien from jail back into American neighborhoods. Now, it'd be nice if J.D. Pritzker was in town. Unfortunately, J.D. Pritzker wasn't in town. You know where he was? He flew to Minnesota. He flew to Minnesota to put flowers for Alex Preddy. He flew to Minnesota, and by the way, has not issued a single statement about this girl, Sheridan Gorman. In fact, none of the Chicago or Illinois Democrats have issued a single statement about this woman. Oh, I take it back. Alderman Maria Hayden blamed the girl herself for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, it's her fault. She was out for a night with her friends and got shot by an illegal alien you guys had in custody twice.
Well, from what I've been told so far, right, from what police know, from speaking to the students who were with her, it seems she might have, that as they were just out, people go out to the beach all the time, right? And they go out on the pier, they walk around. So the kids were out doing normal things people do in the neighborhood. And it sounds like this might have been a wrong place, wrong time, running into a person who had a gun. They might have startled this person at the end of the pier unintentionally. But that's all we know. So it from what I've been told, what police investigation has turned up so far, what they've been able to share with me and with Loyola University, we don't believe there is cause for broader community concern.
Oh, really? How many other illegal alien murderers have you let stay in your sanctuary city? Yeah, it's her fault that she was out for a walk. It may have startled the guy who walked up to them, approached them, and then shot her in the head.
So a Democrat's either using the she was asking for it excuse, or a Democrat was using the it was just self-defense excuse. Either way, not a great look.
Not a great look at all. But by the way, Zach, I looked up all the tweets from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson about this. 0. From J.B. Pritzker, 0. Lieutenant Governor Stratton, 0. The House Speaker in Illinois, Welch, 0. The Attorney General, Raul, 0. The Senate President, Harmon, 0. Meanwhile, they're all getting on airplanes to go out to Minnesota to talk about Alex Preddy. A girl from New York, from Westchester County, was going to school at Loyola, was out for a night with friends, and she is dead because of the Democrats' failed policies. Your lines at the airport are because of the Democrats' failed policies. They wanted those lines to be long so you would call your congressman and complain. So you would call the White House and complain. So you would not vote for Republicans in the midterms. This is by design. Hakeem Jeffries. Oh, look at all the chaos. Look at all the chaos. Look at all the chaos. Are you kidding me with this nonsense? This is by design. Fund the TSA. Fund the Department of Homeland Security. What demand do you guys have that you want? You don't want ICE at the polling locations. And there's only one reason why you wouldn't want ICE at the polling locations. In fact, later in the show, we're going to talk about how Bob Ferguson kept saying, oh, no, our mail-in balloting is completely secure, and then signed a bill showing our mail-in balloting is not completely secure at all. And these out-of-control crimes aren't just happening out in Chicago, where, by the way, more people have died in Chicago over the past few weekends than died in the war against Iran. That's how out of control the crime is in Chicago because of these sanctuary policies, because of these catch and release policies that the Democrats have that are no different than the ones here in Seattle. Because up next, my friends, a case that you know all too well, we find out the verdict with regards to a murder of a pregnant woman in a car here in Seattle. Tell you all about it up next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. By the way, Katie Wilson is no different than any other Democrat on the issue when it comes to immigration. So you remember a few weeks ago she signed her executive order to crack down on ICE? Well, somebody slipped me a memorandum from the Seattle Fire Department. Let's just go over what this says for a second here. Mayor Wilson issued an updated mayoral directive on federal immigration enforcement on January 30th, 2026. This builds on the previous administration's directive and prohibits city property from being used for federal civil immigration enforcement. You are invited to watch a 20-minute immigration enforcement compliance and readiness training to increase awareness of the city's position. What to do if federal immigration officials visit any Seattle fire facility. Limit their access, so obstruct federal officials from going after criminals. Yeah. Limit their access to the public area of the facility regardless of official identification or a warrant. Let them know that per City of Seattle directive, I cannot provide you access to secure areas of city facilities. I will contact somebody who is designated to assist you. Please wait here while I place that call. Okay. What are we talking about here for a minute? Usually the fire department goes out to treat victims. Who would be in the firehouse being brought back to the firehouse? Unless you guys are hiring illegal aliens already, because we just signed that bill.
Hot dog salesman?
That's what's happening. The food cart guys. That's what it is. The little food, the hot dog. They're back there. Yeah, it's them. No, actually, you know what I think this is? Sometimes they do blood drives at these things. They go to blood drives looking for illegal aliens. I mean, these aren't the blood drives that pay you, right? These are the ones where you just show up and, hey, I want to give some blood. Last time I went to a blood drive, by the way, I was turned down. I was turned down.
They're trying to get illegal Transylvanians who are trying to.
That's what it is. Yes, like in Blade, the blood banks are actually for the vampires at night. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I was turned down. They said too much iron in my blood, and I'm like, oh, awesome. I feel like Magneto in X-Men 2, where they put all that iron in the guy's blood and it just comes right out of him. And then I found out it's because I eat too much red meat. And then all my doctor friends said, that's not a thing. What idiot did they have taking your blood? We'll take it. So whatever.
You might need some different doctor friends.
I think I don't know if it's a doctor friends or I don't know if it's a lady.
Are your doctor friends podiatrists?
No, but
a lot of chiropractors in your circle?
No, I got real doctor friends. Hey,
friends. I didn't call them fake doctors. The Hofffather did.
Okay, well, all my fake doctor friends, now you're on their list, okay? You ever show up at any of their places, they're going to be judging you. Anywho, they added this. So they said on the scene of an incident. Okay, now we're into the meat of this. On the scene of an incident, if federal immigration enforcement officials want to detain a patient you are attending, you must disengage from patient care unless the immigration officials allow you to continue treatment. So we're so mad you're doing this, you don't get to treat that guy anymore. That's it. We're going to let him die rather than fall into ICE custody. That's what it sounds like to me. This is crazy. Oh, and then my favorite part at the bottom of this document, this memorandum may be destroyed December 31st, 2026. Isn't that a violation of public records requests? Or is it like Mission Impossible? This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Is that what this is? Bonkers, crazy stuff. We live in.
I say let it die. Let it die, let it die. Let it shrivel up and come on, who's with me, huh?
That's a new one.
From the Lorax.
I was going to say, where'd you find that one?
A kid's movie.
Oh, I know what it is. I read the book at some point in my life.
Speak for the trees.
Switching gear over to a case you definitely remember. Do you remember just a few years ago, a pregnant woman, Ina Kwan, was shot on 4th Avenue, right across from the Cinerama and right across from where the old CVS used to be? So the man who was charged in that, Cordell Gooseby, was found not guilty by reason of insanity and will be committed to a state psychiatric hospital. Now, this guy...
So they're sending him my way?
Yes, actually, sending him your way, assuming he doesn't escape from Western State Hospital or kill somebody there.
No, thank you.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Let's not even speak that one into...
Well, it's happened. I mean, it's not like I'm wishing for it to happen. It's just, unfortunately, Western State Hospital got defunded by the federal government because it was so badly mismanaged by Jay Inslee and crew that now the thing is a total disaster and nobody's bothered to fix the thing up yet. So it's a high likelihood that something awful could happen at Western State Hospital.
You want to buy a condo?
Wow.
I don't know if you know how close it is, but it's
visible. Is it part of your skyline view, Western State Hospital?
If it had more than 2 stories, yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, so close by. There's like signs, don't pick up inmates that
I think
might
it's
be walking on the
within
road.
the frame of distance most would call a stone's throw.
Oh, that's not horrifying at all. Okay, so we're not going to wish that on anybody. But there is this little game that's played with defendants here in Seattle. Do you remember Ruth Dalton? She was the dog walker who was killed. She was carjacked and killed by that prolific offender. So they said he's insane and he needs to go to the hospital and be on medication. So they put him on the medication. Now he's sane. He goes back to court and they're like, well, you're sane enough to stand trial. So then he goes back to the hospital and stops taking the medication. So they think he's insane. So they keep him back there. And it goes back and forth like a ping pong ball. So much so that case has barely progressed. Is this another incident where somebody is gaming the system? Let's not forget what this guy did and how heinous a crime was. He didn't know the man and the woman in the car. He didn't know the Kwans. The car was stopped at a traffic light on 4th Avenue. This couple was driving home from their business. He opens fire in the middle of the morning, 11:15 a.m. He opens fire. She's pregnant. She dies. Her child dies. Unfortunately, in Washington, that's not even considered manslaughter in this case. So you have she dies, the child dies, the husband's shot in the arm. Now this guy's found not guilty by reason of insanity and gets to live off taxpayer dime in Western State Hospital or whatever other thing it is. And for all we know, might get released down the road because some lefty governor or who knows what says, oh, this is cruel and unusual punishment. We shouldn't keep murderers locked up anymore. You think this can't happen? This is the kind of stuff we have seen happen time and time again. I mean, how many people have we had to have on the show who are victims of some terrible crime or had a family member who is a victim of a terrible, terrible crime, and they have to advocate to us to raise awareness to have the governor stop somebody from being released by the ridiculous sentencing committee, which always decides no criminal should be in jail for any reason at any time and always wants to release these guys. This is the prolific offender cycle here in Seattle, in King County, in Washington. Just release them. Doesn't matter what they did. Doesn't matter what it was. If they carjacked an old lady who's a dog walker, doesn't matter. Just let them go or give them a taxpayer-funded vacation. That's what it is. It is absolutely insane, the regularity with which this happens. And nothing's going to change till things around here change. And I don't know if they're changing anytime soon. But I will tell you something else, is that a lot of people had a lot of hope in Joe Kent. And actually, President Trump called him out this morning. We'll tell you what for. And we may actually have a lead on what he was leaking and who he was leaking to because of a new report from our friends over at Turning Point USA. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I think we're finding out more and more about what Joe Kent was actually leaking. Now, a reporter was asking President Trump this morning about Joe Kent. Here's what the president said.
Mr. President, do you know whether Joe Kent was leaking?
Look, I'm not a fan of the guy. If you look at, and you never cover this, if you look at his truths or whatever he went on, if it's X or truth, if you look at his truths or his statements, he was all for everything. All of a sudden, he wasn't. He was a man that I met at Dover. He came and his wife was killed. He remarried fairly quickly. His wife was killed, and I felt badly for him. He ran for Congress, he lost. He ran for Congress again, and he lost. I said, you know, he's a guy, nice guy, seemed like a very nice guy. I met him, he was pretty heartbroken, pretty. But I said, you know, it's a shame. He ran for Congress twice. Call him up, give him a job in the White House. Smart. They gave him a job in the White House, and this is what he does to me, you know? Being a nice guy doesn't pay off too much.
Mr. President.
Think of it. He loses twice in Congress, ran not very good campaigns, should have won, but he loses twice. How do I get him? I have my people call him, because I didn't deal with him for the most part. I saw him a couple of times, but I never dealt with him at all. I had no idea his ideology was left or right, whatever it is. I can say this. He said very strongly that Iran is not a threat. Iran's been a threat for 47 years, and there's not a country in the world that doesn't agree with me on that. So I take this guy, Joe Kent, who lost twice for Congress, pretty badly and tough, and was devastated, and I know that he lost his wife. So instead of letting him live out his life, I brilliantly have my people call him and offer him a job in security, essentially, in the White House. And what does he do? He goes out and he says that Iran is not a threat to get publicity. Now, he probably signed up with CNN or maybe he signed up with your division of Newsmax. I don't know. But
So here's the thing. That's a less eloquent thing. Of course, when I say the word eloquent, all of a sudden I can't think of words. That's a less eloquent way of our entire opening monologue the day this all came out. That Joe Kent probably wasn't the best hire. And actually sounds like the president is admitting he wasn't the best hire because everything he writes on social media contradicts everything he said beforehand. Now, we went back through the records and we found this from Joe Kent in December of 2023. Let's not forget, Joe Kent is now blaming Israel for his wife's death. She was killed by ISIS. He's blaming Israel for everything. This is what Joe Kent was saying in December of 2023.
Today, we learned that Marie Perez is taking money from pro-Hamas, anti-Israel Pramila Jayapal. But most importantly, we know that Marie Perez voted against giving Israel the military support it needed following the terrorist attacks of October 7th. That's right. After Hamas terrorists went into Israel, killed 1,500 civilians in the most horrific ways possible, and took American citizens hostages, Marie Perez voted not to give Israel any assistance, leaving our American hostages high and dry, leaving our ally, the Israelis, high and dry in their fight against Hamas. Her record matters here. Her rhetoric doesn't. But today, we also learned exactly why she's voting the way that she's voting. She's receiving money from Pramila Jayapal to vote against Israel and for Hamas. Pramila Jayapal gets out there and says it all out loud in the news, while Marie Perez quietly takes the check and votes accordingly. We cannot afford to have leadership like this. We need people who understand exactly what threats we face here as a country. Marie Perez also voted to leave our troops in the Middle East as Iranian proxies continue to shoot at them. We don't have time for incompetent leadership like this. She is going to get people killed. This is completely and totally unacceptable. I know exactly what dangers that we face. I spent the vast majority of my adult life fighting terrorists overseas. I need your help to take out Marie Perez here in 2024. Please go to joekentforcongress.com to support my campaign. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Joe Kent was such a bad candidate, he lost to Marie Perez twice. And losing to Marie Perez twice is a really sad thing when you consider that that is considered the most vulnerable seat in Congress for the Democrats. Literally, number one in the country. And he managed to lose it twice. We supported him both times, thinking he would be a good option. Unfortunately, we didn't know everything there was to know about Joe Kent. For example, the name Rabbi Pesach Wilicki, you might remember him. He's the one that the New York Post did a big article about because he was one of the last people to speak to Charlie Kirk before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And what was the discussion? A lot of people tried to claim Charlie Kirk was going anti-Israel, and Rabbi Wilicki said that wasn't the conversation at all. The conversation was Charlie Kirk was trying to refine his arguments, his beliefs, his principles on Israel, and would bring in people like Josh Hammer and Rabbi Wilicki to debate with, so he could refine them because he was getting so many questions about Israel on his college campus tours. So people kept using this conversation as if it was, oh, Charlie Kirk was about to turn on Israel. And everybody who is present for this conversation backs up Rabbi Wilicki's version that no, it was about refining his arguments. Now, Rabbi Wilicki has a very close relationship with Turning Point USA. So he was on Aaron Moran's show the other night, and he said this about Joe Kent.
That the way that those screenshots got to Candace is via Joe Kent. You see, this has never been made public before, Aaron. Right now on your show, this is I'm saying this. So let me explain. Andrew Colvett, who's was Charlie's number 2 guy, who now hosts the show. Andrew was in the chat group as well. He was one of the 9 people in the group, and he admitted at first. Be perfectly honest, at first he was denying it. We didn't know how Candace got them, but then he admitted on the air on his show that he had given these text messages, and he gave them to, he said that on the show that he gave them to someone in the government. He told us that he gave them to someone in the government, and of course the response of the people in the chat group was, you don't have a right to do that. This is a private chat group. There was no warrant. It doesn't work that way. But nevertheless, he did it. So we didn't know how it got to her. And then we started putting pieces together. Because Joe Kent was someone that we knew that there was a relationship there between Charlie and Andrew and Joe. We knew that when Charlie would visit Washington, D.C., he would talk to Joe. And we kind of put 2 and 2 together, and eventually, I'll leave out some of the details that I shouldn't say. We kind of verified that the messages had been given by Andrew to Joe Kent, and that Joe Kent had been the one to pass them on to Candace.
So what were these text messages about? When something awful happens like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, his friends wanted to find out every single angle. And while they were still trying to figure out, did Tyler Robinson act alone? Was there anything else to it? This group discussion was weighing different theories. So somebody said, hey, why don't we turn him over to the government and have our friends in the government, because we got a lot of friends in the White House, actually investigate this thing. One of their friends in the White House was Joe Kent. So Andrew Colvett, who is Charlie Kirk's producer, was Charlie Kirk's producer, now the host of the Charlie Kirk Show, allegedly gave these over to Joe Kent to go say, hey, is there any truth to him? Now, Andrew Colvett this morning on the Charlie Kirk Show addressed this, because once a bombshell like that comes out, let's see if it's actually true. Here's what Andrew said this morning.
The reason we're bringing this up, obviously, with his departure from the administration, there's a lot of debate over what it means. People have been arguing, was he a leaker? Some people have suggested he might be a criminal. He should be indicted. We're not saying that. But this has come up, and...
Yeah. Well, and my name's getting tossed around with this as if I did something untoward. No, I don't regret any of it. I regret that they were leaked. I was told that I could trust them. I told that it was private and it would be guarded, just to look into any possible leads. And by the way, we did that with a bunch of different things because we want the truth to come out. So we're not blocking anything. We don't even care if the answer is something that is really, really terrible, okay? We want the truth. We want justice. And we believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. We believe that they got their guy. We have additional questions. But guess what? It was an egregious breach. Whoever shared that screen grab publicly, it was an egregious breach, and obviously we're not happy about it. But can't put it back together again. Can't put the paste back in the tube, as they say. And so, again, I just want to be very clear. I don't know who ultimately shared that publicly. But the facts are, Joe Kent was one of the people that had it. Very, very, very small group of people. Maybe one of his team members, whatever. But he did suggest that it was shared publicly. We declined because Charlie had every opportunity to say publicly what he believed. He did not say that publicly. And so far be it from me to put words in his mouth, okay? That was something that was private. So we wanted to keep it private. And I think that's being in keeping with being a good friend, okay? Is preserving somebody's trust in their privacy. So now everybody knows. Yes, Joe Kent had it. Yes, he did suggest leaking it. Can't prove that he was the one. But those are the facts, because there's been a lot of noise made about this in the past, whether, you know, or in the recent week, about allegations of leaking and things like that. I got nothing. I don't know anything other than that piece of the puzzle, okay? That's all I know.
So he had the screenshots of this conversation where they're discussing various options, a group of friends, a group of Charlie's friends, gave it to Joe Kent. And Joe Kent said, why don't you put this on the internet? And he said, I don't want to. Can you investigate it? And then the next thing he knows, it ends up on Candace Owens' show. Does that mean Joe Kent did it? No, but it doesn't look great. It's not a good look. And if he leaked that, when he considered Charlie Kirk a friend and he considered these people friends, what else might he have done? I think that the more and more we learn about Joe Kent, the more and more we realize that the administration's telling the truth. And the more and more it seems like Joe Kent did this for his own personal reasons. Maybe because he wants a podcast, maybe because he wants to be a big deal in that group. Who knows what the story is? But clearly it wasn't about putting the administration's wants, desires, wishes, or even Charlie Kirk's ahead of his own personal ambition. Seems like that's what won the day. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Up next, my friends, Elizabeth Warren endorses an actual Nazi. Can't make this stuff up. That's who the Democrats are endorsing for office. Looks like they're going back to their old KKK
Donald John
roots.
Trump?
Oh, wow, Zach.
I'm using their own rhetoric. I don't mean it. I don't mean
We'll
it.
give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas herself, who is so intent on getting rid of white supremacists and so serious about Donald Trump being a Nazi that she has endorsed a Nazi for office. I kid you not. Graham Planter received the Massachusetts senator's endorsement this week. This is the guy who has the Nazi tattoo on his chest. I seem to remember Elizabeth Warren getting really, really mad about Pete Hegseth because he has the Jerusalem cross on his chest. That is not a Nazi symbol. It's not a white supremacist symbol, by the way. It's a Christian symbol, guys. And anybody who's seen any movie of the Crusades would know that.
You know, there's one thing I've learned through both of those stories. It's that symbols tattooed on my chest, bad idea.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with my original plan, which is an astronaut. I think I like the Apollo suit. Planting the American flag onto my nipple as if it were the moon.
I thought you were going to say your butt, because that's the actual moon.
No, I'm not. I'm not disgusting.
Yes, Zach wants a lower back tattoo of an astronaut, not a butterfly.
No, upper chest.
Upper chest. Okay, sorry, I was making
the
fun.
butterfly goes back there.
Yeah, no, we know where the butterfly goes. Anywho, Graham Planter received the Massachusetts senator endorsement this week. In a statement announcing her support, Warren said, Graham Planter is going to flip Maine and then actually deliver change for the working people in the Senate. Yeah, we're going to change the wardrobe a little bit, get some white hoods. He's a combat veteran, an oyster farmer, and has inspired people with his populist agenda for a government on the side of working families, not the billionaires and giant corporations. Graham will fight every single day to make life better for the people of Maine and the United States Senate. I am proud to endorse him. Wow, really? This is a guy who has the Totenkopf, the skull emblem used by the Nazi SS troops during World War II. He got the tattoo in 2007 while in Croatia with family members of the Marines fellow members of the Marines, and claimed he did not intend to get a Nazi symbol. The tattoo has since been covered up. Yeah, I remember me and my friends got really hammered one night when we were in our gap year. And in the Middle East, when we're out there, they have all these henna tattoo places, and we were very stupid. But we said, okay, we're not going to get real tattoos. We'll get the henna tattoos, right? And what was big back then? The Chinese symbols. The Chinese symbols are real big. And I said, you guys are assuming those are accurate translations. For all you know, it says, I'm a moron, and you just put that on yourself because it's funny. So what happens? I got a little devil on one shoulder and a little angel on the other shoulder. I came home, my parents...
These are like Camaro mullet days, right?
Yeah. I came home, my parents freaked out because the henna was a little heavier back then. It didn't look as fake as it looks now, coming from the Middle East. But
I think I saw heavy henna open up for Trap Mouth one time. They filled in for Stained.
No, it was Mullet Camaro. That's the other one they filled in for. So what happens? A buddy of mine got a whole arm sleeve of henna tattoos with Chinese symbols on them. I go, dude, you don't even know if that's appropriate grammar. You have no idea. I would think that before you get a tattoo of any kind, you know every possible version of that symbol.
I always wonder if there were people in other countries back in the early 2000s running around with English words and characters, just water,
Yes, my friend said he got one. I remember this like it was yesterday. This was 22 years ago.
No regrets, huh?
Yeah, no regrets. No, my God, it was like 25 years ago. He got happy and special. And I go, for all you know, that don't mean happy. That means something else. And
you, sir, might be special.
Right, for doing that. I mean, look, we were all having a good time. It was our last night of our gap year program before coming back. Also stupid, by the way. Don't give blood, then go drinking, then get on an airplane. Very uncomfortable for many
You get
reasons.
your money's worth probably on the drinking, though.
Yes. Yes, you do, but not good for business. And then your parents get mad when they see your tattoos when you come back, and then you have to convince them they're not real tattoos after just coming back from a year of not having seen them. I did not have the most productive gap year. I assume the bars I spent my money at did very well off of that. I did not have a very productive gap year. I think I wasted my gap year. Anywho, over here on the text line, Joe from Graham says, Ari, Western State Hospital is going under a huge renovation. I believe a new wing is being added to it. Yes, Zach confirms this, by the way, Joe from Graham. It looks like a massive project is being done there, probably because Western State Hospital got so bad. Now you got to fix the thing up so you stop having people escape like this one from Darren. Darren says, I literally watched a patient running across the lawn at Western State Hospital naked with people running behind her trying to catch her with towels. Sounds like they had things well in hand over there at Western State Hospital. Sounds like that's...
My family's got a business not too... It's decently far enough, but it's not too far from Western State. And they come through.
You see them sometimes.
They're out. Oh, yeah, they're out and about. They're getting around. They're getting around.
You see people in the community. They're the people of the community.
Yeah.
As Kamala Harris
You'll
would
see
say.
people come through and you're like, oh, yeah. Like the proximity, you kind of know there's some folks around.
They're from the hospital.
You pay attention when you're at the park.
Yeah. I remember I'm driving in downtown Seattle years ago. I think I was going near the hospital, pick up my wife or pick up one of my kids or something like that, and I'm going to the hospital. And I see a dude walking around in a hospital gown, but the back is wide open, and he's got a massive head wound. And I go, you ain't supposed to be out here. I think you just wandered away from wherever it was that you're supposed to be. Oh, crazy stuff. Up next, my friends, speaking of even crazier stuff, I interviewed the president of the University of Washington. And a whole bunch of activists got really, really mad about this. We'll tell you what happened when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the Supreme Court of the United States may solve the issue of mail-in ballots here in Washington. But before we get to any of that, my friends, it is time for your chance to win $2,000 in cold, hard cash. That's right, my friends. Your chance for us to... We're going to pay your bills, my friends. That's right. You get entered for a chance to win $2,000 in cold, hard cash. And you're going to need it with gas prices and everything else going up around here thanks to the Climate Commitment Act and everything else that's going on. So, my friends, all you have to do is text the word I give you to the number I give you. And then you will be entered for your chance to win. Zach is going to give us today's word. Zach, what is today's word?
It is title. T-I-T-L-E, title.
As in the title to your house, the title to your car, the title of a chapter of a book. Exactly. That is what it is. Text the word title to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And you will be entered for a chance to win $2,000 in cold, hard cash.
My title is assistant producer to the Ari Hoffman Show.
Exactly
or
right.
assistant to the producer.
Right. You're assistant to the regional manager. Let's get things straight around here, how this goes. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, now that the hierarchy has been established about how things go around here, this weekend had a unique event over at my synagogue. So, the University of Washington's president came to speak at my synagogue. I did not advertise this on social media because you guys know me. I put almost everything on social media. The reason I didn't advertise this on social media was because I didn't want the crazies to find out. Well, turns out one of them did. And one of them decided to post it over on social media. Now, this wasn't a problem until Friday. I knew that we needed security for this event, but on Friday, Antifa found out about this. Ready? Here we go. What are they mad about? There's a nice picture of me. By the way, I look pretty good in this picture they put up of me. I think I look really nice. Thank you to this Antifa website called Through the Static. Normally, you guys just make threats about me, but this is a rather nice picture. I think I look rather good. Propagandist and Zionist Ari Hoffman to host UW president for combating anti-Semitism on campus town hall this Sunday. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no, watch out. Ari Hoffman, he's a Zionist. The definition of Zionist means believe Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. Uh-oh. Watch out now. Then they write this. When the event went off without a hitch, they just republished their post again, which is even funnier. Today, UW President Robert Jones spoke at Combating Anti-Semitism on campus town hall that was moderated by Ari Hoffman, a propagandist and Zionist. The Seattle chapter of Jewish Voices for Peace demand that Jones withdraw from the event went unheard. Okay, Jewish Voice for Peace, they're not Jewish and they don't want peace. They're shills for terrorist groups, and very few of them are actually Jewish. We know this because anytime they try to do a Jewish event, they do it wrong. My favorite example of this was at Columbia University during the insane encampment. They put out a Seder plate for the Jewish Passover Seder. They put out a plate and all the Hebrew's backwards. If you got Jews around everywhere, not one of them went to Sunday school, not one of them went to Hebrew school, they could say, all of that is backwards, guys. Not one. Ready for this, Zach? Hoffman is a right-wing agitator who is widely known locally. Wait, hang on. Let's do this. We got other people in the room. What am I known locally for? What would you say?
Please, it's the Zionist aggressor.
Zionist aggressor. We'll go with that.
Right-wing agitator is what I call my washer.
We'll go with all that.
That was an appliance joke.
I got you. I was kind of glossing over that a little bit. You know, I'd say almost spin cycling past that. So that's what we were. I'm sorry.
Don't make me rinse and repeat it.
So, widely known locally for his inflammatory rhetoric. Yes, so far we're doing okay. That targets Palestinians, Muslims, Jewish allies? Wait, what? Now I'm really confused. And others, including at UW. Wait, is that even English? Did you guys get your graphic wrong? Hoffman has doxed students and community members who advocate for Palestinian human rights, JVP said. Well, okay. Hoffman, and here's where it gets more fun. Here we go. Ready? Hoffman works alongside and is friends with MAGA propagandists.
Is that me?
No. It'd be nice if it was you. It's not
I just
you.
wanted the recognition.
Sorry. Do you want the recognition? Mike was starting to get it. You know, we could do this. Okay. We can make this happen. We just put
want
up
him
a
to
few more
notice
pictures
me.
of you.
I want the attention.
Let's do a live broadcast in the middle of Red Square at University of Washington. You'll get all the attention you want. We'll do that. So this includes, the MAGA propagandists. Here we go. This includes Cam Higbee, who our supporters have nicknamed Ham Pigby. It's not good. It's not good. It's not great. And Jonathan Cho, who is widely referred to as Jonathan Chode, which, these males recognizing our gender. Thank you. These people, hey, who are you to assume their identity, have a history of agitating protesters and instigating fights to film and chop the footage up to mislead their audiences on current events, often working to paint anyone who disagrees with them as violent. This is coming from the Antifa website about who's violent. So, anywho, what do we have to do? We have to increase the security at the synagogue because now we're getting all this over on social media. What else do we find out is that these lunatic activists decided to do a letter-writing campaign demanding that the president of the university cancel his event at a synagogue because apparently everybody at my synagogue is a right-wing Zionist, blah, 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 which was in their letter. Now, I'll say this about that. My synagogue has diverse opinions. We are not all of one mind. In fact, I have many friends who are on the other side of the aisle. But they really just revealed something. They revealed that they don't actually want to have any discussions. They just want anyone they disagree with to be silenced and people in authority to cave to their demands. By targeting a synagogue, and by the way, this had multiple Jewish organizations as partners on it, many of whom disagree with me. In fact, one of the synagogues on here, the leadership of the synagogue, was getting hate mail from their own congregants for me being the moderator of this event because they disagree with my politics, not my views on Israel, but they disagree with my politics. They targeted a synagogue and multiple Jewish partners organizations, including a Jewish high school, who was one of the partner organizations, for an event that was not even discussing Israel or featured in any of the marketing. But they just proved by doing all this that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism because they don't want anybody even having the discussion. They organized a letter-writing effort to try and get the president to cancel. They failed. They tried to get activists to show up at the synagogue to protest the event. They failed. You show up there, you see a whole phalanx of security guards in the Seattle Police Department. All of a sudden, you guys aren't so brave anymore. They're posting on social media. We got to show up. We got to get bodies there. Wusses. What a bunch of wusses. They attempted to have Jewish Voices for Peace, a group linked to terrorist organizations that has very few Jews in it, claim I don't speak for Jews. They failed. Over 130 people showed up, and I only knew half the room. I didn't know who these other people were. But they were across the political spectrum. They were across the Jewish spectrum, and they showed up for the event, maxing out our social hall. I got to say, it was a nice event. It was a nice event. What are they so upset about? That we could have real discussions on real issues. For example, what is the oh-so-controversial things that I asked about? How does the president define anti-Semitism? Here's his answer.
Well, anti-Semitism to me is just very clearly and unequivocally where a group of people are treated differently because of their shared ancestry, the historical context of where they come from, or their set of beliefs that may be to be antithetical to others and are treated differently just because of that shared ancestry and where they came from and what they believe in. And so it's just, to me, anti-Semitism is a more directed form of hatred and bigotry that's targeted at a group of people just because of their shared ancestry. I don't know how to put it other than that.
Okay. That's an interesting answer. Didn't mention the word Jew or Jewish, but it's an interesting answer. Hatred directed towards a group of people because of their shared ancestry, shared history, shared religion. Okay, not my favorite answer. We'll come back to that in a second. But is that so controversial that the lunatics should be upset about it? They don't even want us having the conversation at all. That's what they're most mad about. They are mad that the president of the University of Washington was even talking to the Jewish community. And if I wasn't the moderator, they would have been mad it was happening. They would have said, how come you're not meeting with us? Well, maybe if you hadn't caused $1 million worth of damage to a brand new building at the University of Washington, maybe they'd meet with you. Maybe. If you hadn't caused over $50,000 worth of damage to the hub, maybe they'd meet with you. Maybe if you hadn't vandalized the entire campus, and then when the cleaning crews came to clean it up, and then you guys cut the cables to their pressure washers and their hoses, maybe then they meet with you. Maybe if you hadn't staged the sit-in in the administrative offices, maybe then they would meet with you. Maybe if you hadn't set up a violent encampment on campus, which lasted over a month, attacking Jews, attacking faculty members, destroying the property every single night, burning flags, maybe then they meet with you. If you guys actually want to have the conversations, then maybe we'd have the conversations. But they don't want to have the conversations. They want to just silence whoever is on the other side. And if it wasn't me, they'd be mad that somebody else was having this conversation. And you know how I know I'm right? Who's standing by on the Warrior Injury Law studio line that I can see in my screen right here? Bennett the protester, who is here right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Okay, we knew this was going to happen. Bennett, you spent the weekend posting about this event on social media. And you posted about it on Reddit. You posted about it on Instagram. Am I right about that so far?
Oh, yeah, I found the post from the media, like, through the static, and I was just posting comments on there.
Okay, stop right there for a second, Bennett. Stop right there for a second. You were most mad that I was having a conversation with the president of the university because I am, what was it? I'm an Islamophobe, an anti-Muslim, and all that, right? Is that what you said?
What I said is that you had made enough bigoted statements that
bigoted statements, good, fantastic. Now, Bennett, let me ask you this. Every single day, you call this show, even though you think I'm a bigot, even though you think I'm a racist, you call this show every single day. Why are you engaging and talking with a bigot? Why are you engaging and talking with a racist if you think it's such a problem?
Well, every time I call, it's to tell you that you're wrong about something.
Okay, but you call, Bennett, you put out there that the president of the university should not even be engaging with me. And in the process, you were egging on Antifa supporters, anti-Israel supporters to target my synagogue, which has a broad variety of opinions about it. In good faith, I have you on this show whenever you call. And if I can't have you on at a certain time, I tell my producer to tell you when to call back because I am a nice guy like that. And what did you do? You went on social media, and instead of talking about how I am willing to engage with you anytime you call, you went on a tirade accusing me of some pretty vile stuff and encouraging people to show up to this event to protest it, putting my synagogue in danger. Bennett, I have done nothing but show good faith to you. And because of this, we are done having you on the show. We are not going to do this anymore. We are done, Bennett. I have been nothing but good faith. Bennett, by posting this, you know what? We're done. We're done.
Boring conversation anyway.
You know why we're done? Because you don't get to go after innocent people. Bye. You don't get to hold up this as an example and say these people are wrong because they share Hoffman's views. You don't get to do that because there are plenty of people in that room who disagreed with my views. And I'm going to put this out to the listeners. I know how many angry texts I get from you guys when we have Bennett on. But I think I have been nothing but fair with him up until now. But when you do something like that, going after the private life, especially when I haven't shared anything about it on my public social media, specifically to keep down attention on this event, to avoid targeting it, tell you what, do you think I'm being too harsh with Bennett? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. We'll do this like we did with another call one time. You think I should let him back, or you think I should keep the ban in place? Because I don't play with this. You give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Because what I have zero patience for is putting people I know in danger because you don't like me. That I don't like. That I do not like at all. Take all the shots you want at me, come at me with whatever it is. You do not put other people in danger because you don't like me. Antifa is a violent group. These anti-Israel lunatics are a violent group. And by riling them up and sending them after a synagogue event, these guys have proven what they are really about. Over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, we got this one right here. This one, holy cow, these are coming in really quickly. 360, this is one of the best days ever on KVI. No more Bennett. This one here from the 360, banned. Good job, Ari. This one here from Carol. We're not going to say the name she called him, but good riddance, ban him. This one from the 808, ban him. This one here from the 619, good riddance. When you make it personal, I have no patience for you anymore. There are plenty of people who I have on the show who disagree with me. There are plenty of people I talk to on social media who disagree with me. Zach disagrees with me.
You let him work on your show.
I let him work on my show, and he disagrees with me with things I care about a lot, right? There's other people sitting in the booth who I'm sure disagree with me on a ton of stuff, who we're not going to call out by name because they don't want that. But they disagree with me on anything, and I'm happy to disagree in good faith. Always happy to. Do you know how many email conversations I have with people who disagree with me all the time, where they just email me and want to fight with me? And I'm like, yes, let's do it. Let's have a conversation. I show up to places that hate me to have these conversations. But then you think it's a good idea to rile people up against a synagogue? Against a bunch of people who did nothing other than know me? And some of them who didn't? Who showed up for bagels? Just so they could meet the president of the University of Washington and ask him some questions about anti-Semitism? No, that's where I draw the line. That's where I draw the line. This one here from the 206, strike three and you're out. From Ted, Ari, good call on the Bennett call-ins. You are more than fair with the callers, says Ted. This one here says, keep Bennett because you always win against him. That one I enjoy a lot. He's
kind of your Washington general.
Yeah, exactly. This one here, heck no, kick him out. The only reason he ever called was to hear himself talk. This one here, give him the boot. Doesn't deserve another chance. Hell to the big no. And by the way, here's something else Bennett probably doesn't know. And Zach, you know this. When people would text in and say they don't want to hear Bennett, I would say, we have him on so we can have disagreements. When you cross the line into personal stuff, that's when we say, no more, no more. Even in Bonnie Lake, Ari, some people just simply refuse to be reasoned with. Keep the ban in place. This one here, ban Bennett, untrustworthy. Bad faith has nothing to add. This one here, 100% agree. He is disgusting. This one here from Kelly in Seattle. Ari, I'm amazed you kept him on as long as you did. Here's another one. This one from the 206. Ari, you are correct. You've been more than patient, more kind to Bennett than I ever could have been. Good riddance to bad rubbish. And unfortunately, that's how this ends. And this ends because of what he did. And I wish it didn't end that way. But you know what? You crossed the line. You don't cross the line with me because then you get the boot. And I'm sure he'll show up at other events and try to ask questions. But when you're on the ban list, you're on the ban list. So if there's an event, I will not call on him. I will not ask him questions because I've just had enough of this. Just enough. You come after my friends. You come after my family. You come after my synagogue. I'm done. Let's remember, I got in this business because somebody did that exact same kind of stuff. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including, is SCOTUS about to solve our mail-in ballot problem? Tell you all about it when we come back and what their decision is today. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder so that you never miss a minute of the show. Download the KVI app, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is, so that way you are fully up to date on the Ari Hoffman Show. In fact, even if you listen on the radio 3 hours a day, subscribe to the podcast. We'll appreciate the subscriptions. Do appreciate that. Well, today the Seattle Times sent out this headline. You ready for it? Because this is a doozy. I can't believe they even got this so wrong. And I understand doing rage bait, doing clickbait. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Seattle Times, mail by vote in Washington at risk in U.S. Supreme Court case. The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments on Monday in a case that could end the practice of counting ballots received after election day. Wait, hang on. That's not saying no more mail by vote, which is actually vote by mail. Who calls it mail by vote? Dyslexia for cure found. What are we talking about here?
We all take a poll on if someone ought to be a transgender.
There you go. Exactly.
That is a mail by vote.
By vote. Oh, Zach, you're going to get me in trouble.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be off this show next week.
You're fired. You're done. Goodbye. So what happens? The case is actually about ballots received after Election Day. After Election Day. Does anybody think? Here, quick poll. We're going to take a mail-by-vote poll of the two people in the booth, okay? Not by name. Do you think the ballots received after Election Day should be counted? Zach, do you?
No.
Okay, to my other friend. You don't have to say anything. Just yes or no.
Maybe. I think it's up to the post date.
Oh, to the post date. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
No. So, okay, see? All right, fine. If it's postmarked by the day. Fine. Okay, see, look at this. Compromise. And nobody targeted my house or my synagogue or my family and anything.
Because I think if you're going to vote by mail,
yes,
it's the date you put it in the mail. It's not my responsibility if the United States Postal Service is lazy or something happened or whatever.
It's the post office.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But the question is whether or not the ones received after Election Day. Now, this could affect the post date. This could affect many things, which just means you lazy turd, you had a month to get it in. Show up a little earlier or drop it at a drop box rather than the post office.
My bad.
Thanks, Zach. It's your fault. Yes, because
it's not my fault.
Well, all these votes in Washington, we lost by one vote. You know, it was young Zach. That's how much we lose by around here. So, okay, let's see what we're talking about here. The Seattle Times got so ratioed for this headline that they had to change it. Ready? And I haven't seen them do this in a really long time. They had changed the entire article. How this U.S. Supreme Court case may affect Washington's vote by mail. And they sent out a correction email with it, which I found fascinating. And then they had this. A U.S. Supreme Court case that was argued today may ban counting of mail ballots received after Election Day. Now, in this case, I think they switched it around. We still want to dig at them. So they put in the excerpt as opposed to the headline. But what was the Supreme Court actually saying when they heard about this? Look, we know about shenanigans that go in with voter ID. For example, the fact that my wife's name has been wrong on her ballot pretty much the entire time she's lived here in Seattle. The fact that my son was able to register online without showing any form of ID whatsoever. We know that there's stuff that are loopholes. Whether or not they're being exploited, whole different discussion. What was SCOTUS discussing today when they were talking to the attorneys? We don't get video of this, but we do get audio.
We have lots of phrases that involve two words, the second of which is day. Labor Day, Memorial Day, George Washington's birthday, Independence Day, birthday, and Election Day. And they're all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase Election Day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place, or almost everything. And then we have 3 points in time. 1844, 1872, 1914. And we can ask, what would people have thought on those days is meant by this phrase, Election Day? Which of those should we choose? Which of those dates should we choose?
Well,
I think you could choose any of the three. I mean, honestly, I think the single best one, if you're just going to choose one, is 1872. And the reason I say that is because 1914 is the latest in time, but that's the one that Congress gave the least thought to.
Okay, I'm bored. Cases are not that exciting. But Justice Alito was 100% right. It's not election week. It's not election month. It's election day. That's the day you're supposed to do it. That's what day it should be postmarked by. That's the date. A lot of states are just, well, if it was mailed in, we don't care when we get it. No problem whatsoever. And that's what we're trying to solve. This is not going to take away vote by mail. This is not going to jeopardize vote by mail. This is not going to do any of that. Instead, it's just, hey, what do we do with these ballots? Like, for example, Mike, oh, great point, Mike, right here on the text line. There was a case in Seattle where a mailbox was out of service. It was not discovered until after the election. The votes were not postmarked, and the votes were counted anyway. I remember that case like it was yesterday. This one here from the 360, I agree. Anything received after Election Day, regardless of the postmark, should be invalid. Who is to say that the post office is in cahoots with postmarking a bunch of ballots ahead of time? Okay, if you can prove something like that is going on, fine, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. Now, here's the thing where you get complicated. What about counting votes after Election Day? Now, here's a thing I got. France, Israel, much smaller populations than the United States of America. These countries get their election done in one day. Why do we have election week? Why do we have election 3 weeks? Why do we have election month here? This is the kind of stuff that just, drives me absolutely bonkers. This one here from the 425, a few months ago, the Times even ran an article that mentioned the post office said they are not going to have canceled stamp dates done on that day they received the mail. It could be the next day. So people need to go online and have a post office person stamp it by hand. Look, guys, this is ripe for problems. Ripe for problems doesn't mean there are problems. We have documented problems before. We have shown you where, if you want to take advantage of the system, there are problems. Shouldn't we want the most secure election that we can possibly have in our state? Shouldn't we want that? You know who does want that? Bob Ferguson. Wait, no, Hoffman, you can't be right. Bob Ferguson actually said that? I'm reading from his website right now. Today, Governor Bob Ferguson signed Senate Bill 6084 to prohibit double voting by fixing an ambiguity in state law. Voting more than once in an election is an affront to everyone who participates in our democracy. This bill makes it clear that double voting is illegal. Those who try it will be held accountable. Senate Bill 6084 was requested by the Secretary of State. Its prime sponsor is Senator Adrian Cortez. In 2022, a Lewis County man voted twice, once in Washington and once in Oregon in the same election. He was charged and found guilty of a felony for voting twice, but his conviction was overturned because the definition of an election in Washington's law wasn't clear. The bill takes effect immediately. Voting more than once in an election is a Class C felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and $10,000 fine. Senate Bill 6084 passed 47-1 in the Senate and 93-0 in the House. Wait a minute. You guys said this wasn't happening. You guys said people weren't voting in two places. You guys said this wasn't happening the past few elections. You guys said this wasn't happening. So why do you need a bill to fix it? If it wasn't happening, why do you need a bill to fix it? And here's something else. How are you going to enforce it? Are you going to actually compare your voter rolls with other states? Because if so, there's actually some people in the federal government who want to do that, but you're not turning over the voter rolls to the people in the federal government who want to make sure that this isn't happening. So then why are you continuing to fight the Trump administration that wants to see the voter rolls? You see how they're kind of giving away the game here a little bit? Just a smidgen, just a tiny little smidgen. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, the Trump administration is suing Harvard University. What are they suing it for? And does this mean everybody gets to go to college for free? Can we take all that Harvard money and give it to everybody else? Redistribution of wealth for college. Sounds right up the Democrats' alley. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, you may have heard that the federal government is now suing Harvard University. That's right, because they suck so bad. I'm sorry. I mean, they hate Jews so much. I mean, they're just really not well behaved at all. Joining us now, a graduate of Harvard University who has gone round and round with the school before. Shabbos Kestamam, how you doing today, buddy?
It is good. It's good to connect with you as always, Ari.
Good to talk to you too. So you have a unique perspective where you've gone head to head with Harvard University before. Do you think they got to the point in the federal administration where they just said we can't take this nonsense anymore, and this is the only way we're going to get any real significant change at the school?
Essentially, I think that's a good way of framing it. I would also add that there are two differences this time. Number one, they're using legal precedent. So they've actually cited Kestenbaum v. Harvard. We were the first case in American history pertaining to the civil rights violations of an American Jew on college campus to be allowed to go to trial. Our judge, Judge Richard Stearns of the Federal District Court of Massachusetts, who's the same judge that the DOJ and Harvard will have to face, he wrote in response to Harvard's motions to dismiss, he said, and I quote, "The facts as pled show Harvard failed its Jewish students." So there is legal precedent, number one. And then number two, I encourage all of your listeners to read the case themselves, because the DOJ is not saying, well, this is alleged. All the DOJ is doing is using Harvard's own words against them. The Harvard Anti-Semitism Task Force report is a 311 report where it outlines in vivid detail the pervasive and systemic nature of anti-Semitism that Harvard allowed to manifest on campus. And so the Department of Justice is simply saying, well, by Harvard's own admission, they discriminated against American Jews, so we don't want to be held responsible to the tune of billions of dollars in federal funds every single year. And last point, Harvard had said prior, in previous cases, that the way in which the Department of Justice went about cutting the funds was improper and it was unconstitutional, right? They should have had an investigation. There should have been a grace period. So the Department of Justice said, okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to investigate it. We did. We found that you're guilty. We had a grace period. And now we want our money back. So I think this is a slam dunk case for the Trump administration. And to me, this is just promises made, promises kept.
Now, knowing the Harvard University as well as you do you think this is the kind of thing they do a stalling tactic for, I don't know, 2.5 years roughly, and keep it tied up in court so that way somebody else may be in office after that and maybe they don't have to pay the big price?
Absolutely. I mean, this was said, it was an open secret, at least when I was there, that they were A, hoping that Kamala Harris would win so they didn't even have to deal with these structural reforms. And then B, once Trump did win, they figured, okay, well, let's just run out the clock. The guy has 4 years and afterwards we'll be off the hook. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And without getting in the details of my own case, because I can't, but they spent a considerable amount of time and resources and lawyers trying to attack the yeshiva I went to, trying to attack Chabad houses that I spoke at, trying to get the entire chat log of the Harvard Jewish student WhatsApp group. So they are trying to run out the clock here. And another interesting point is in the initial case with Judge Allison Burroughs, again of the Federal District Court of Massachusetts, where the Trump administration froze the federal funds, Harvard University did not dispute the findings of the Trump administration. It's not like they said, no, you're wrong. We love our Jewish students. We protect them. This is outrageous. All they said is, again, on procedural grounds, you were wrong to have suspended all the funds. So all the White House did is they just went back, they followed the proper procedures. And it's important that your listeners understand, Harvard is trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to say, we can and should and must be able to violate the civil rights of our own students, American Jews. And at the same time, we want the American taxpayer to bail us out and to fund us to allow us to continue to do that thing. I mean, the hypocrisy is just ludicrous at this point, Ari.
So, full disclosure, Shabbos has spent Shabbos at my house, as a matter of fact. He's hung out, we've had drinks together, we've had meals together. I have never looked at his chat history. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to guess what it was that they were trying to subpoena. Here's what they would have found. Hey, can anybody have me for Shabbos? Hey, does anybody have any scotch? Hey, who's sponsoring Kiddush this week? Oh, and by the way, anti-Semitism sucks. Is that about a good summation of the internal chat from Harvard University Jews?
It's fairly accurate. And I told my lawyers, like, look, if Harvard wants to go after me and subpoena me, I mean, that's fair and that's legitimate because I brought the lawsuit. The problem was Harvard tried going after people that weren't really involved. So yes, the Harvard WhatsApp group is a fairly boring chat log, but nevertheless, the American Jewish students at Harvard, particularly the undergrads, they didn't want to be caught in the crosshairs. Random rabbis whose synagogue I've spoken at, they would call me and say, hey, do I need to hire lawyers? Because they would be sent these very litigious and threatening emails from Harvard's lawyers. And the point I was making actually to a reporter from the New York Times this morning was Harvard University is fighting the Trump administration with greater alacrity and determination than they ever fought against anti-Semitism, against anti-Asian discrimination, against the silencing of conservative voices. So it's quite clear what their priorities are. And I would say it's a damning indictment of the state, not only of Harvard University, but the state of academia in the United States today.
In the last few minutes we have with Shabbos Kestenbaum from Prager University. You can see all his great content over there on their website over at PragerU. I don't know if you saw this report that I did. I assume you probably saw it before I did about the fact that the Jewish population at Harvard is now down to 7%. And it used to be every Jewish mother in the universe and grandmother wanted their kid going to Harvard. Now it seems like, I got into Harvard, how dare you? That's kind of what it seems like now. Does that about track for you?
Yeah, so that report was authored by the HJAA, the Harvard Jewish Alumni Alliance, Clarence Schwab, Karen Lang, and others. And it documents what we have been saying for a very, very long time, which is at its peak, Harvard was 25% Jewish, and today it's roughly 6 or 7% Jewish. And it's not because Jews got dumber over time. It's because there has been a deliberate and systemic campaign to crack down on the amount of Jews at Harvard University. And perhaps what's most unnerving about this is it's not just they were cracking down on, white Christians or American Jews, but they were replacing it primarily with foreign students. There's so many foreign students, Chinese students at the Harvard Kennedy School, for example, that there's a great Wall Street Journal article, and it shows how the Chinese Communist Party literally refers to the Harvard Kennedy School as, quote, their party school. So Harvard's response has been, okay, well, now we're going to recruit at Jewish schools to tell Jews just how much we love them. And the response from us in the American Jewish community should be absolutely not, for a whole host of reasons, chief among them being, we don't want DEI, we don't want preferential treatment. We want meritocracy. We want to get in based on our own merits, irrespective of our religion, irrespective of our race, irrespective of our socioeconomic status. And that's something that Harvard and so many of the Ivy Leagues have just been unable and unwilling to do, to just treat the student based on their intellectual worth and their academic merit. They only see things through the prism of DEI. And the last thing I'll say is, if you're a Jewish day school in the United States and you allow a Harvard admissions representative into your campus without getting any concession as to what the university will do to protect your students, then to quote our president, you should have your head examined. You are in no way fit to be an educator and teaching young, impressionable, vulnerable American Jews.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This is why we're friends, probably. Shabbos Kestenbaum from PragerU. Really appreciate all your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck to you, buddy.
Thank you, Ari. I appreciate it.
We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I wish there was a state, possibly a government we could experiment with, where we tried out the really bad policies that we were considering here in Washington and then saw if they worked and if they didn't work. And if they don't work, we don't do them. Oh, wait, we have California. California is doing the same stupid as us, just a few years ahead of us, and we can watch whether it succeeds or whether it fails. Fox 26, their local Fox affiliate, ran this report on the minimum wage.
Statewide minimum wage hike for fast food workers is now set at $20 an hour. It was designed to help struggling employees, but a new study from UC Santa Cruz suggests it may be doing the complete opposite.
Yeah, Fox 26 News reporter Myra Franco breaks down the findings for us and what it reveals. Myra.
The study shows more people are applying for fast food jobs, but many are not seeing increased hours or even securing employment at all. It also finds businesses are cutting shifts, customers are paying higher prices, and more machines are replacing workers.
You can't deny that places are closing. Big chains are closing. People are getting laid off. I mean, there's no denying that.
In the study, UC Santa Cruz researchers also spoke with a McDonald's franchise owner in the Central Valley of 18 locations. They found employees got their hours cut by over 11.5% after the wage law took effect. That drop equals to about 62 full-time jobs. Researchers say based on the 2 years of data, the same pattern may be happening across the state and not just in Santa Cruz.
Really? You mean when you artificially increase the minimum wage, that businesses can't afford it, so they lay off workers? If only this had been tried elsewhere before. Oh, wait, it was in many other places, especially when you're hitting businesses with so many other costs that now they can't survive anymore. The amount of restaurant franchises that closed after this went into place is absolutely astronomical. So, of course, people are going to lose jobs. They're going to lose shifts. And you know what happens is that the business owner will take some of those shifts because they can't afford to pay employees anymore. It's not because they want to do it. As a former business owner, I can tell you don't want to be doing the extra work. It's just you can't afford to pay somebody else to do it. So now you have to lay them off. This is what happens when you artificially increase the minimum wage. Another failed policy from the Newsom administration. You know, we have this wealth tax, millionaire tax, capital gains tax, income taxes, all these different taxes here. If only there was a state that did this tax on the uber wealthy in advance so we could see how it would affect Washington. Oh, wait. Here we go. According to the post-millennials, California weighs a 5% wealth tax. 6 of the state's billionaires have left because of it, taking with them a collective $27 billion in tax revenue. This represents roughly 1/4 of the $100 billion initiative it was projected to bring in. Google founders Larry Page, Sergey Brin, left from Miami, as well as venture capitalist Peter Thiel. Former Uber CEO Travis Kalanick has left for Texas. Don Hankey, a car loan magnate, left for Las Vegas. Steven Spielberg moved to New York City, with representatives claiming he moved to be closer to family. All 6 left the state before the proposed initiative's January 1st, 2026 cutoff. I'm not sure you can really include Steven Spielberg if we're being fair, because Steven Spielberg, well, he moved to New York, and New York has some crazy taxes too. Per Fortune, these 6 billionaires out of the state's 214 would have brought in a collective $27 billion under the proposed tax that would levy a one-time tax on the net worth of residents with assets worth at least $1 billion. Page's net worth would have brought the state $13 billion, while Brin would be forced to fork over $12 billion. Peter Thiel, Kalanick, and Hankey combined would have brought in $1.775 billion. Wealthy figures, including both inside and outside of California, have been donating to campaigns that are fighting the tax, including Brin, who donated $20 million to Building a Better California. In the wake of California's initiative being announced, other cities and states have waived similar taxes. Rhode Island Governor Dan Mackey has backed a 3% tax on millionaires, while Washington State passed a 9.9% income tax above $1 million per year. In New York City, Mayor Zoran Mamdani has been pushing to tax the wealthy members. This is why I don't think Steven Spielberg moved for that reason. Of his city in order to fund social programs. New York Governor Kathy Hochul this week begged wealthy former residents to return to her state in order to fund generous social programs with their tax dollars. Gavin Newsom has a massive problem on his hands. Gavin Newsom. That's his biggest problem. That's his biggest liability in the campaign because his own record is terrible. The record of Democrats in California is terrible. And he knows that if they pass this thing, he's done. He is done. Because those billionaires are going to go elsewhere and go, don't give this guy any money if he's running for president. Look what he did to our state. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's no good. It's very bad. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from John in Redmond. John, what's going on?
Ari, the voice of Seattle.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. What's up?
Well, you are. I just wonder whatever happened to entry-level wages where somebody can work, make a few bucks, and learn something. It's just despicable how I grew up in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, and I did jobs too gross to mention on the radio. Well, maybe not, but it would take too much time. But I learned that there is better work. And that is what young folks have to learn.
I think it's a little bit more than that.
Job?
I think the thinking has changed, John. So let's take the baristas over at Starbucks, right? It seems like a lot of them think this is your life. This is your gig until what? You become an influencer or something? And that's the problem. I mean, John, okay, let's do this. You find comparable things in your background. Here's some jobs I worked. I made meatballs for caterers. I literally sat there making meatballs for caterers before Passover. I did that for years. Okay, I worked at a deli behind the counter. I worked as a bartender. I did not see any of these as massive career goals. I assume you worked similar jobs, right?
Very similar, but far more gross.
Okay.
Someday, if I ever meet you, I'll tell you about it.
You tell me what they are. I didn't work these jobs to start a career in catering. I didn't work these jobs so I could become the best meatball squisher or whatever it was in the world. I got these jobs because they put money in my pocket when I was a kid because I wanted to buy things.
But Ari, you learned how to squish meatballs, and therefore you could do something else.
Well, I'll tell you something is that the meatballs have not transferred into any other skills because somebody made the meatball batter. I don't know what you call it before. See, I don't even know what you call it. All I did was literally put them together. So my wife from time to time has said, wait a minute, did you do this stuff when you were younger? I'm like, yeah, but I didn't actually learn anything. It's like Play-Doh. I just put it together. So you want me to make a sphere out of meat? I am the best at making a sphere out of meat. I can do that.
But you learned that there is better work. And that's the important part.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ari.
Yeah, pleasure, John. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, text line's going crazy. Final hour free for all. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text. Plus, also talk about, are the Sonics actually coming back? Yeah, I think they are, and I'll tell you why. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, big Sonics news, my friends. Looks like the news a lot of you have been waiting for. But before we get to any of that, some not so great news. There's a new CBS News poll out, CBS News and YouGov. Now, before you start saying, oh my God, CBS, let's not forget Barry Weiss runs CBS these days. Here's the poll. Trump's approval numbers have sunk to 20% with 60% disapproval. His numbers on key issues threatened to sink Republicans in November, including down 10% on immigration, down 24% on Iran, down 28% on the economy, down 34% on inflation. That's the lowest since November. Now, this is a cautionary tale for Republicans. People can look at these polls and go, CBS, YouGov. You can do that. You can do that. But it is not smart. This means you have a massive perception problem. And it's the same perception problem that Joe Biden had. Joe Biden kept saying, things are cheaper, things are cheaper, things are cheaper, things are cheaper. And everybody said, then why aren't things cheaper? President Trump said, I'm going to make your whatever cheaper. And people go, well, it's a little cheaper, but it's not as cheap as it was before Joe Biden. So what's the difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden? Now, you listen to the show every day, and you know that before the war with Iran, gas prices were down significantly in 35 out of 50 states. And a lot of those other states, we know that gas prices are up, especially high because of Democrat taxes. So why were gas prices going down in the rest of the U.S., but not Seattle, for example, not Washington? Because we had the Climate Commitment Act. The Climate Commitment Act continues to push the prices higher and higher and higher and higher, so much so that they were never going to go down again. And we warned you about that on the show. We told you that was going to happen. So what's funny to me is when you see politicians like our very own Representative Adam Smith trying to blame high gas prices of our state versus other states solely on the war with Iran. Because he never said anything. Never said anything under inflation with Joe Biden. Never said anything when Joe Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. Never said anything when he shut down the various drilling on federal lands. Never said anything when he canceled leases on federal lands. Never said anything about that at all. Now all of a sudden things are too expensive? Dude, I remember the last 4 years. He didn't call anything out. Now this is something that the Trump administration has to deal with. Now, the problem is that the average American thinks it's the economy, stupid. I want more money in my pocket. Right now, I'm paying more gas at the pump. And the war with Iran is having an effect on the pump. The Strait of Hormuz is not technically closed. It's that ships are too afraid to go through them. Why? Because any idiot with a rocket launcher that it has from the regime can take out an oil tanker or any other ship for that matter. Because right now, nobody's in power in Iran except for the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. These guys are fundamental nut jobs. So I want you to think about this for a second. Think about World War II. If Hitler's dead, and Goring's dead, and Goebbels are dead, and they're all dead, all the leaders are dead, and all the commanders are dead, and all you've got left is the army. They surrendered, right? We made a deal with them, right? Because they were so defeated that they said, okay, we're willing to give up the Reich. We believed Hitler was whatever, but he's dead, and everybody who supported him was dead, so we don't have to do any of that anymore, right? We are willing to whatever. We are willing to surrender. We are willing to move on. We are willing to do something else. And that's the end of World War II. Here, though, Islamic fundamentalists don't just give up. They play the long game because they think they're going to keep fighting into the afterlife. So how do you win a war like that? And that's going to be the challenge for the Trump administration. Now, President Trump is no fool, and he knows this is a problem. So the headlines that came out last night and today are that Trump has considered winding down the Iran conflict. And the truth is, there's not a lot left to blow up in Iran. Iran has lost everybody who was in charge of the country. In fact, most recent reports say that their new Ayatollah fled and may not even be in country anymore. That's right, the cardboard cutout Gone. Shipped out on FedEx, just gone. He might be hiding out in Russia. We don't know. Maybe he's dancing with Pete Buttigieg. We don't know. We don't know where he might be. He could be anywhere. We don't know. Right now, nobody's in charge except for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and that's a dangerous place to be. Does this mean we have to put boots on the ground? Does this mean
No.
See, I know
No.
Zach. Zach don't like the boots on the ground. We know the Marines' boots
I don't like
are,
the planes in the sky.
No, you don't like any of it. We know the boots are on the water right now. All right? Are they heading to the ground? We know where the boots are. So now you've got a problem. How do you solve this problem? How do you solve a problem like Iran? Add your own musical version of that right now. So here's what you got to do. You got to figure out how to make peace with these guys or a ceasefire with these guys. But if you do that, you might have to do this again in the future. Anything less than total victory means they go, we won, we defeated the great Satan. So President Trump sees what's happening with the markets. And he says, well, our plan was to blow up all their electricity and shut them down and put them in the dark. But we're not going to do that because we're negotiating with them. That's what we're going to do. Then Iran comes out and says, we're not negotiating with this guy at all. So he offers you an off-ramp, and you say no. Iran, just to show you how stupid they are, launched a missile at Diego Garcia this week. Now, for years, they have said they don't have any missiles that can hit Europe. They don't have any long-range missiles. Guess what? Diego Garcia, really far away. So now you've proven you are absolute liars, and we shouldn't believe anything that you say. So, question is, what does it mean, wind down the conflict with Iran? And here's something else. When are the Iranian people going to rise up and take back their own country? If Iran's oil is now available to the whole world without sanctions, guess what? Prices are going to fall through the floor, come way down. But if this continues to be the status quo, things are not going to get better. They're not going to. And this is something that we need to keep an eye on because this polling means it could be a bloodbath for Republicans. Is there time to fix it? Absolutely there is. Absolutely there is time to turn things around. But the media is not helping at all because if you listen to the media, you think that the U.S. is losing this war. The U.S. is not losing the war. They're losing public opinion. And the reason they're losing public opinion is because of the economy. And because if you try to explain to somebody why they have to pay more at the pump today so that they could pay less in the future, what's going to happen? You're going to say, that is the most Bidenism thing I've ever heard in my life. That is the kind of stuff where Joe Biden says it's going to go up, and then come down. That's what it is. It's the same thing. People do not know geopolitical politics. People do not get into this stuff this deep. A lot of people want the Iranian regime gone. A lot of people want it gone. They say it's a threat. They have nuclear weapons. But you have to solve this problem with public perception. The media is never going to help you out. So what do you do here? And there's a few things you do here. So the first thing is you say, hey, we're having these talks, and they don't want to have these talks. But Iran did itself the biggest disservice it ever could have done. Does Europe ever actually get involved in anything? Ever? No, they never, ever do. The Europeans just go, okay, you Americans, you do whatever you want. Help us. Germans coming, right? That's what they do. That's what Europeans are best at. But in this case, all of a sudden the Europeans seem like they're kind of interested in helping out because all of a sudden they saw there's a missile that could hit Diego Garcia, which means it could hit Paris, which means it could hit Rome, which means it could hit anywhere in Europe. So now they might be stepping up. The allies. Well, you have your little war. Oh my God, our gas prices are going up. We're coming to help. And that's what you're seeing. President Trump gives an ultimatum. Open the Strait of Hormuz, call off all the attacks on the Strait of Hormuz, or else we are taking out your entire power grid. You see what happened in Cuba this weekend? So there was this big concert and a whole bunch of lefties went for the concert and went down to Yay Cuba. They're all down in Cuba. Well, they didn't have
Viva Cuba.
Whatever it is, something. So I think they use their visas in Cuba. I think that's why they're in trouble.
Viva.
No, I know.
Oh.
So what happened? Not travel visas, the other visas. So what happens? They didn't have enough power in Cuba, but they're powering the rock concert, which means some hospitals weren't getting power. So the rumor going around online is people were dying in the hospitals because they're powering the rock concert, which is beyond crazy.
If I'm traveling to Cuba, it is the American, honest way, and I'm going to Gitmo.
Which, by the way, we've been offered the opportunity to go to Gitmo to watch the 9/11 trials.
I had some more time on my hands these days. Maybe I ought to go try it out.
Maybe Zach wants to check that off. You know what we should do? We should put up a map. Where in the world has Zach been thanks to KVI and Lotus Communications, right? Where has Zach been? We just put little pins in it of all the fun places, but you got to put little tags on the pins. Like, why did you go here? Well, I went for the Super Bowl. It's not like I really wanted to go to that city. Why did you go to Milwaukee? Well, the RNC, see, you got to kind of explain it a little bit. An interactive map.
I went to Gitmo for the sights. It's for the food.
For the food.
For the culture.
There you go. Yes, I went for the cigars. That's why I went to Gitmo.
Why'd they keep him there? He brought back too many cigars.
But yes, this is a perception issue. So I want to know if this perception issue has rattled your confidence in what's going on. Me personally, no, because I kind of understand it. But a lot of other people are going to say, I don't want to be paying these high gas prices. I'm curious what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take call from Kurt in Kirkland. Kurt, what's going on?
Hello, Ari. How are you?
Good. What's going on, man?
Hey, listen, perception. A month ago, President Trump was talking about asking all Visa accounts, credit cards, to lower their rates to 10%. He even had Pocahontas Elizabeth Warren's support on that, and then all of a sudden we never heard about it again. Have you heard any updates on that proposal? Because that would help my perception a lot.
I'm with you, and there's a lot of things. Like, for example, he was going after all these colleges, and a lot of them just kind of fell through the cracks, and it's almost like, okay, let's go after Harvard again. I mean, we keep going after Harvard. They haven't done anything with UW. They haven't done anything with a lot of these schools. So there's a lot of these things that they make these big announcements about, and any administration does this. I haven't heard anything about that, Kurt, but I'm going to go check it out. Yeah. I will 100% check that out. Look, they did great things with the Trump savings accounts, right? Those are great for kids. Yeah. That's real. That's happening. You can sign up for one. They did a lot of great stuff with the economy. Unfortunately, inflation was so high that to get it back down, it takes a number of things. It takes the prices going down. It takes the gas prices going down, which they were doing. But also it takes the Federal Reserve. It takes other economic indicators. And right now, things aren't so great, which is why from the beginning I said, look, I understand your tariff policy. But if you do this at the same time of everything else, you're going to have a lot of trouble. So I'll tell you what, Kurt, that's a great point. Let me look into that for you, okay?
Indeed. Ari, my credit cards are currently at 24.9%. That's complete taking advantage of the American public, just like the gas. I'm not rattled right now if Trump, because they say in November, we're not going to be talking about what we talked about in March of 26. Mm-hmm. I mean, look what could happen between now and then. I mean, Cuba could become the 51st state, led by Marco Rubio. And, that'd be something we'd be talking about in November. But I'm really interested about this credit card stuff because that could really, really help me out tomorrow.
Yeah, and a lot of people feel the same way. Like, for example, mortgage rates coming down. Right? Mortgage rates coming down helps out a lot of people. Loans coming down, Federal Reserve rates coming down, that can help out a lot of people. There's a lot of these little things here or there that could help a lot of people. And there's some other things too, like not being blown up in a mushroom cloud could help a lot of people too. But yes, the financial stuff definitely has to be reined in and have to buckle down on that. Otherwise, we're in for a not good time in the midterms. Kurt, I hear where you're coming from. I am making myself a note right now to check that out, and let me get back to you. Okay, buddy?
Thank you, Ari.
All right, man. Appreciate the call. Hear where you're coming from. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Forrest Cat writes over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, the average consumer is very confused about inflation. Inflation means increase. And when the rates increase, inflation is more normal. Prices only increase gradually. When the media say inflation is down, the average consumer misunderstands, expects prices to drop. No, when inflation down, that just means prices will continue to increase. Okay, sort of, but not really. I hear what you're saying. It has to be explained a little bit differently. But basically, what you're trying to say here is inflation is lower than it was during the Biden administration. It has to come down even more because people say, I used to pay $2 for gas. I used to pay $3 for gas, and now it's higher again. And when gas prices go up, that means other things in the economy go up as well. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Ron in Tacoma. Ron, what's up?
I'm a bit confused. So Trump's dealing with a war for the United States, and the gas is, maybe $1.50 in that area depending on where you're at, added to the original gas prices. And that's a big problem. But so when Trump does a war and it goes up $1.50, and the Democrat Party for the last 15 years being at war with the United States, and it went from $2 a gallon up to $4 and $5, that wasn't a problem.
Well, I agree with you, Ron. I mean, that's why we were calling out Adam Smith in the last segment about him saying, oh, the gas prices are so high, which is beyond ridiculous because let's see how much the war has actually spiked gas prices. The average that the war has spiked gas prices is about 30 cents a gallon. Okay, that's the average. Let's just go with that. The Climate Commitment Act spiked gas prices $1.30 a gallon. And I don't hear any Democrat from Washington State saying a thing about it, right?
Yeah, unbelievable. And if you think the midterms are going to go bad, people, over this, then you better start voting because you're in for a rude awakening.
Right, I agree. People got to vote because, if they show up and just go, I'm not even going to participate in this, we got big problems. Ron, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Matt, over on the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Oh, Zach, this one's for you. Waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds awesome as long as you don't know what those words actually mean. Oh, that's great. Matt with the text of the day.
Where's my rim shot?
That's just, yeah, give him one of those. That's good. Very, very good. Yeah, exactly. John in Lakewood says, Ari, if other countries come to help open the strait, and they seem to be starting, this thing will be resolved and the economy can be revived in short order. And that's exactly what we're hoping for. That's exactly what we're hoping for. This one here from Bob in the 509. Ari, actually, VE Day in Europe did not mean an end to hostilities. A considerable number of truly fanatical German troops retreated to isolated locations in mountainous parts of Bavaria and continued to snipe at occupying Allied troops with great effect. Casualties continued to mount for well over a year. Yeah, that's what stage we're in. And think about this. How long was World War II? We did it in a month. Did it in a month and got it done. But there is going to be cleanup efforts. There are things you have to do in the meantime. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And my friends, it seems like a lot of you have not at all lost your confidence in what's going on, but you'd like to see it wrap up. I understand that. I hear what's going on. However, some of you have had confidence this whole time that the Sonics are coming back. And I'll tell you something, my friends, got some news today that kind of makes it seem like all but assured that the Sonics are going to be back in Seattle. I'll tell you what it was when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show, my friends. Well, we might get some good news this week because the NBA owners are having their Board of Governors meeting, and expansion is top of the list for what they are talking about doing, which means we might find out this week if the Sonics are coming back to Seattle. Now, I think it's actually going to be a yes, and there's a lot of tea leaves to read why. Number one, they want Vegas, and you can't have Vegas without another team. You need both because everybody needs somebody to play. So they want the Vegas market so bad, they're probably willing to roll the dice on the Sonics, would be my guess. The other thing is that the millionaire's tax, which we've discussed a lot. How is the millionaire tax going to affect the NBA? Well, everybody gets revenue in the NBA from the TV, from the streaming, from buying a franchise. And that stuff, you get more people, you get more money. You do have to split it a few more ways with regards to the streaming rights. But in effect, you're thinking to yourself, we're going to get a big market in Vegas. We're going to get a big market in Seattle. And we'll make our money back. No problem at all. Also, when they pay that franchise fee, we're going to see a lot of money as owners because the owners all divide up that franchise fee, which means every single owner could be seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of $230 million. That's a lot of money to walk away from. The millionaire's tax, here's how this affects it. It affects it by the fact that Seattle might have a team, may not be very good. Right? Because now people who are looking at big contracts, look, will they take a big contract? Sure. But it means that states like Florida that don't have an income tax or a wealth tax or a millionaire's tax are going to be much more competitive. You think it's going to be New York, like, for example, the Mets or the Yankees? No, it's going to be these other cities that are able to attract top talent because people just don't want to pay the sales tax. There's a whole finance system behind sports. But there was a big sign today. The owner of the Kraken, her name is Samantha Holloway, and she announced the formation of One Roof Sports and Entertainment. What does that actually mean? It's an umbrella brand for the Kraken, Climate Pledge Arena, the One Roof Foundation, the Kraken Community Iceplex, which is the practice place / where the kids go ice skating, Memorial Stadium at Seattle Center, Coachella Valley Firebirds of the AHL, and a bunch of other things. This basically means she's being set up to be the owner of the Sonics. That's how that looks right now. It looks like this is a person who's consolidating everything under one umbrella. We're going to be owner of the Sonics.
Under one roof.
Whoa, I see what you did there. Very good. Now, they say this announcement is being done to enable the pursuit of future opportunity. It gives Holloway greater financial control over the arena, but maintains a partnership with the Oak View Group. Quote, we're committed to this community, and this parent brand brings together everything we've done from privately financing the arena for the Seattle Kraken, increasing our ownership in Climate Pledge Arena, allows us to consolidate operations and sets us up for future opportunities. OVG is an amazing partner, and I'm pleased they will continue to operate the facility for many years to come. Zach, crossover promotion a little bit. You're the sports guy over at our sister station, Northwest News Radio.
Sports reporter on Northwest News Radio.
Well, I want to make sure I get your title right. We can't just call you the sports guy? Okay, the sports reporter. We'll go with that.
Report on the sports.
What do you think this means for the Sonics?
Yeah, I think it's a slam dunk, if you will. There's just been so many indicators, and I've never been one to jump on the bandwagon that they're coming back. But I think you're 100% right with the Vegas aspect. It really doesn't have anything to do with Seattle. I don't think they've been as timid to get in the Seattle market as we've always kind of made it sound. I think it really is, where is that other team going?
Right. And I think when you look at the media markets, and we know we're in the top 15 of media markets in the country, they already have all the others. Why wouldn't you roll the dice on Seattle? And if they're worried about the millionaire tax or any of these other taxes, what they're saying is that's the new owner's problem.
Yeah, and the other thing is that every other attempt to bring back the Sonics was always, I felt like, got hung up when it came to the facility. And the Kraken basically dealt with that. I think this was the long game.
Yeah, I agree.
You get a hockey team, not necessarily because you feel like you really need a hockey team, but you get a hockey team to get the stadium, to get the Sonics.
Right. And why would you not go to a city that already has the arena there ready to go for it? I mean, the WNBA plays there. In fact, I saw, was it Como? One of the outlets did a behind the scenes thing where they showed that they have the basketball stuff ready to go, and they've always had it ready to go where you can just bring it out for the NBA. This seems like a no-brainer.
Well, it was just last year. Literally last year, they played several March Madness games here. We were one of the facilities that they had set up for March Madness. Really screwed up traffic.
Yes, it really did. Harlem Globetrotters come here. They had the exhibition game
Yeah.
No, they had that. Who was it? The Pacers or whoever was here?
Yeah.
They did that. This was all trying to show that. However, Holloway, owner. Now we go back to the emails that we got from Ferguson's office. Who was the one telling Ferguson what the NBA wanted? It was Holloway, the Kraken owner. So now, if she's the owner of the Sonics, this paints everything in a different light. Holloway was concerned about the millionaire's tax as an owner of the team. Now I'm kind of curious what backroom deals were being done to make this not such a big deal, because she was talking to Ferguson's office. So you know what this means? After the show today, time to file some public disclosure requests to find out what Ferguson was promising Holloway when, what communications they were having to get the Sonics back. Because make no mistake about it, Ferguson's going to take a victory lap on this. Katie Wilson is going to take a victory lap on this. Oh, my God. You know who's going to be crying in his Fruit Loops? Bruce Harrell. Bruce Harrell. He couldn't get the Sonics back, but they come back when Katie Wilson's
like in a lazy
there.
boy going, I brought that. That's my team. I did that. It's like, please, old man, please. Sit down. Sit down.
Grandpa, go back to watching Law and Order. Yeah, that's what this is going to be. I'll tell you what, though. Here's my real question for everybody. Look, I've said this from the beginning. If the Sonics come back to Seattle, of course I'll go to a game. I'm not going to boycott the Sonics. I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but would I go? Absolutely. So what do you guys think? Would you actually go to a Sonics game? I want to know the answer to that, because at this point, it seems like a foregone conclusion. Look, the Board of Governors meeting is tomorrow. It's a 2-day conference. So it's tomorrow and wait, hang on. Let me check my dates. Yes, it's the 24th and 25th, which means you're going to hear an announcement tomorrow. You know what I did enjoy, though, Zach? You know who didn't break the story about the arena? You know, come on, we know who it was.
Mr. Daniels?
Mr. Daniels from Come On News did not break the story about the arena. In fact, we're hearing this. Basically, we're getting all our Sonics news from everybody else these days. I feel bad for the guy. He carried the fight for so long, and he does have a share in it for keeping up the fight for that long, but then stay on the story, dude.
Maybe I'll call those games on the radio somewhere.
Is that what
Because I know so much about basketball.
That you? Basketball?
It was sarcasm.
I was going to say. Is that
and he shot it from the curvy line.
Wait a second. They should consider me. You know why? I've been calling the high school games for my daughter's school's boys varsity basketball team.
For the broadcast club that she's in and then kind of doesn't want to be in anymore?
That I have to do the work. No, it makes my daughter happy, so I run the broadcast club. I was voluntold I have to do this. Have I told the tale of the broadcast club?
I think the people ought to hear it.
Okay, so what happens is my daughter, not very sporty, but she decided this year, because her brother started the broadcast club and he needed a little help, but he would ask for gear. Right?
She was the heir to the throne, naturally.
Well, apparently. Nobody took up the baton of the broad. But look, my son, he wanted to do the basketball stuff, but he didn't want to do basketball. So he says, hey, you know what? My dad knows the audio stuff. I like music. I like this. Maybe I could do the broadcast stuff. So he started doing it from his cell phone. He was so successful that the coach of the team got the system installed where you pay for subscriptions, and it's what every team has for different sports. You do that. But there was nobody left to be the announcer when he graduated. And somehow my daughter decided she wanted to go and do it. Good on her. And actually, she's got a flair for it. So she wanted to do that. But then all of a sudden, I start getting CC'd on all these emails. I'm like, well, hang on. What am I doing here? And they're like, well, your daughter wants to do it, but she doesn't know how to do it. And somebody's got to teach her. So guess what? You're elected. I'm like, whoa. I barely know how to push the button. Zach still shows me how to push buttons in the other room. Literally doing it today, and I messed up today. I actually messed up on recording an interview today. So we're going to have to fix that for tomorrow. It'll be fixed. It's fine. But that's something, for example, you're trusting me with this, has been real trial and error, because as much as I love my son, he didn't leave behind the most detailed instructions, and the website for this system sucks.
Tell the nice people listening on their radio the homework you assigned to those kids.
Those kids, I told them to go watch basketball games, and I told them to go watch movies. I told them
what
movies to go watch. Miracle, for example. I told them to watch The Mighty Ducks 3, which has an announcer in it. I told them to watch. I gave them a whole bunch of stuff to watch. I told them to go watch the stuff, and they didn't even do that.
Ari comes in telling me all that. He's like, yeah, I told him to watch some of these movies. Yeah, Miracle on Ice. And Mighty Ducks 3.
Mighty Ducks 3. Not even the good one. Mighty Ducks 3, because there's a kid announcer in it. But I'm pretty good at what I do. So you know what I did? I put in a request for all the local teams to see if they could have the kids in the booth to show them how the pros do it. And so they haven't gotten back to me yet, but I'm a persistent fellow. If I want something, I will get it. So we're going to try and get those kids in the booth for one of the things. But I'll say is that for the Sonics coming back, it's good for Seattle. And there's so many things that are bad. Don't be mad just because the politics didn't go your way that sabotaged something here in Seattle. Okay? So take me for a minute. Did I really think this was going to derail the Sonics? Absolutely. I thought it was going to derail it. And it's a factor. And now we can prove it was a factor because the owner was the possible owner is the one who's worried about it. It's a massive factor. Don't get me wrong. But for me, the Sonics, you support your home team. You support your home team. So I would go to the Sonics game. This one here, John says, there's no way I'll go into a war zone and leave my car parked unattended. Doesn't want to deal with Seattle. This one here, Ari, if I win Sonics tickets from KVI, I'll go. Oh, that's a funny
I'm just wrapping
giveaway.
my head around that. That's a reality. I might see a Sonics game in my lifetime.
We might actually have.
I mean, I was alive when they were here, but
Yeah.
I mean, barely. I don't know.
Right.
They were leaving 08?
Yes, 08. They were here. Yeah. This one, I will never set foot in Seattle again, except to drive through to wherever I choose to move to when I retire. That's assuming it's on the way, my friend. This one here, even if they get the Sonics, the team is going to collapse. The reason it left is because nobody was going. And on top of that, now we have a millionaire tax. No good player is going to decide to come here and give up 10% of their salary off the bat. That's insane. And that's the point I've been making. They may be here, but they may not be good. Is Squatchy coming back? The giant Sasquatch? My wife will be so happy. She loves Sasquatches. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. So how bad is the millionaire tax actually? What is it going to affect around here? And are businesses actually leaving? Well, one of the business owners who's leaving is going to talk to us when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Capital flight, wealth exiting Washington state. That is all we hear out of the tech world. That's all we hear out of a lot of business parts of our state right now. And the question is, how much of it is accurate? Now, a name you might know is Zach Abraham from Know Your Risk Radio and Bulwark Capital. He announced that he's moving his entire company out of Washington, but that doesn't mean he's done with Washington. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, the one and only Zach Abraham from Know Your Risk Radio and Bulwark Capital. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Wish it was under different circumstances, but happy to be here. Long-time listener, man.
Oh, thanks. Really, that means a lot. And also, I wish it was under better circumstances, too. I wish I could have you on. We'd be talking financial stuff. Hey, oil prices. How about we have a discussion about that? But instead, now what we have to talk about is this whole mess going on here in Washington. And something that I have posited for a while is that the wealth isn't exiting now. The wealth already left. And now anybody who didn't leave is now getting ready to go. And what I'm concerned about is whatever efforts we do, whatever we do to fight back, who's sane enough, or insane enough rather, to stay here and say, well, it's not going to happen again in the future?
That's a great question. So when this first happened, I've got to walk back a little bit, and I've got a bunch of our friends on the left that'll be like, "Oh, told you." When this first happened, I was so angry. The illegality of it is just obvious, right? It's on the face of it, and I was silly and naive enough to believe that the law was a contract that we both agreed to, and that at the worst, I could trust the Washington state government to not violate the Constitution, right? I was wrong in that assessment. And the anger that I felt instantly was, I'm out completely. Then you start hearing from people online, and I am not making a martyr out of myself in any way, shape, or form. But about 4, 5, 6 days into it, you heard all these messages, texts from friends and family, and you sat there and went, wait a second. I was born and raised here, right? We can't go without a fight. So one thing I am doing right now, and I'm meeting with some attorneys when I get back, is looking at how to move my articles of incorporation to another state, just for the security of my business. But that will not remove a bit of the tax revenues I pay to the state. That will not mean that I'm no longer a resident of the state. I am going to wait to pull that card to see if this actually goes into place. So I will be here for another 2 years. But I am I'm moving the legal entity. I'm making preparations. So if it doesn't, it's just as simple as pulling the plug and walking out the door.
And that's what a lot of people are telling me, that they're doing the exact same thing. And I don't think there's a single family in Washington, unless they're in Bob Ferguson's family, that hasn't had this conversation, because everybody realizes how bad this is. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday, Chris Daniels cornered Bob Ferguson at a bill signing. And he said, so how does this affect the Sonics? And Bob Ferguson literally lied to his face and said, I don't think it's a factor at all. Talked about all these other states, when literally we got the documents from his own office saying that's what the NBA commissioner wanted to talk about. I mean, they can't even tell the truth to save their lives about this. You think it's dumb, or you think it's just they don't want to deal with the consequences of their actions?
A combination of both. But I mean, so for everybody out there, I don't think that people think about this. Like, I got attacked by a lefty on Twitter the other day. You're not really going to leave. You're not really going to leave. And I responded to him and I said, so let me get this straight. If I offered you $400,000 into perpetuity to move out of the state of Washington, you'd turn it down? Silence, crickets. And I go, okay, that's what they just did, right? The tax savings I will make, or I will keep from leaving here, will pay 100% of the ownership costs of my home here, will pay for a $3 to $4 million spread down in Phoenix, and I'll have a little left over to boot. Like we now, I don't want to, but you're telling me I won't do that? Yeah. Who wouldn't, right? So like I said, jokingly, I was like, it'd have been smarter if they passed a 2.5% tax, right? Still a violation of the Constitution, but it doesn't save me enough money to upturn my entire life. Now, would I do it? Yeah, I would, because you broke the law, and that 2% is going to get to 10 eventually, right? But still, like I said, classic scenario of cutting your nose off to spite your face. Now, here's another one. You're going to sit there and watch them compound these mistakes. Katie Wilson talking about doing a vacancy tax in downtown Seattle. Okay, Ari, you're a real estate guy. I don't need to tell you this. I don't think she's ever heard of something that you and I would refer to as a non-recourse loan.
Yeah.
Right? So what are you going to happen when that vacancy rate goes to 90% and there's no revenue, there's no property tax income, the bank that holds the papers on the ropes, what are you going to do then? Right? What will end up happening is the city of Seattle will end up paying for the maintenance of those buildings. Right? You're just compounding stupid on stupid, and you're putting a sign up that says, don't bring your money here.
Yeah. And we were very lucky in my family that we sold most of our Seattle assets because we saw a lot of this coming. We still have some that are here and they're being affected by all this. So I'll give you an example. You have a 33% vacancy rate in downtown Seattle, and it's about to get worse because a whole bunch of companies are leaving. The value of the buildings, according to the Downtown Seattle Association, has gone down 58% because they're not worth as much if you don't have tenants that are going to fill the things. But the property taxes spiked again this year. So a landlord who's got a loan on a building that is empty and still has to pay property taxes and upkeep and keep away the homeless and you name it, is just going to say, screw it, and turn it over to the bank. And if you think that can't happen, I want to warn everybody about San Francisco. San Francisco, you had Westfield Malls, which just said to a property, you know what? Take it, said to their bank, take it back. Hotels down there said, screw it, we don't want it, walked away from it. The place is a ghost town now. And then some people say, well, why don't you develop it into housing? If there's no jobs, who wants the housing? So now what you're left with is a town filled with crack addicts. Yes, I said it. Taxpayers subsidized crack addicts. And who wants to live in that town? You think Detroit was bad? Wait until you realize you could film The Walking Dead here without having to pay for extras.
No, I know. And one thing I want people to understand, because I think it's easy for you and I to skip over this, they understand what a non-recourse loan is. If these people throw the keys back to the bank, it doesn't impact any part of their balance sheet, their credit score. The lien is the building, right? That's the collateral. So it literally is that easy. It doesn't hurt them to do that.
The King County Prosecutor's Office says law does not allow a homicide.
So there's no reason to. I was sitting at a board meeting the other day, and there were 3 of us on the board of this particular company. 2 of us manage money. And between the 2 of our firms was $4 billion of investable capital in the Puget Sound area. We both agreed, not vindictively, just investment-wise. They specialize in more on the tech side, startup, VC, that kind of stuff. But we have several private investments in Washington as well, in this Puget Sound area. But we both agreed, not only are we leaving, we won't make any investments in startups in this state either. Again, not to be vindictive, but people don't understand this about investing. I can't look at my clients, my investors, as a fiduciary and tell them that we are going to invest money into a business. If we found a really good startup, Ari, I would tell them, yes, we'll fund you, move states.
Yeah.
Because I can't calculate my risk. I can't look at my investors and tell them this is the terms of the deal until the Washington state legislature violates the Constitution and changes the rules mid-game. Right. So I can't do that. I'd be violating. He said the same thing. He goes, we will not, if this law goes into place, we will not fund any companies inside of Washington state any longer. That's $4 billion of investable capital walking out of the Puget Sound area.
Yeah, which is unfortunately just the tip of the iceberg of how much may walk out. That's one meeting in one room. Now, for the people who are listening to this, who are driving home right now and say, oh my God, I'm screwed. I'm stuck here. My family's here. My job's here. I can't leave. We got to give them a little bit of hope, you and me, right? So some of us are gearing up to fight. I know that I'm having some meetings. I know you're having some meetings. I know some other big names, which I'm not ready to disclose yet, are having some big meetings. But it seems like there is this tailwind or something where people said, this is enough. We want to fight for our area because we don't want to leave and we want to give it one last ditch effort. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, it's pretty funny, or not funny. It's encouraging. 5 days ago, I was apoplectic just because, look, my wife was Miss Washington 2000. She was born and raised in Tacoma. I was born and raised in Gig Harbor. We just bought our dream home in Gig Harbor, right? I don't want to leave. But and because of that, I was apoplectic. I will tell you today, I'm actually excited. And I'm excited because of the spirit of cooperation that's going on behind the scenes. The people that would not have ever, you'd never think aligned on the same side of issues are aligning. I see people putting egos behind themselves. I see people opening wallets and getting serious to lay out some serious cash. And so, what I would tell people is stay loud. Do not give up, right? And I was jokingly said, I was like, don't give up on Washington State. I think the old girl's got a couple punches left. And I mean that. The groundswell and the energy, it's building, and we just all got to keep pushing it. We're in the right, we're on the right side of things. Stick with it. And if you're like me, right, we owe her at least one more go. And it's happening. It's happening, and it's exciting to see. And more important, Ari, like you and I were talking off air, I'm excited about the potential right now to get this overturned so we don't have to leave our home. I'm also excited about the long term because this group of folks wants to address a lot of things. And I think that we have the potential to really change things for the better going forward. So that's the hope. But it's moving that way, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'll say this for our audiences is that I don't keep secrets from my audience. My life is an open book. In fact, you can see most of it on social media. But I will say this is that there's a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about on air. There's a lot of stuff we're not going to be talking about on air, not because I'm trying to hide it from my audience, but there will be Ari has a few old fashions before one day's episode and then tells everybody what happened. Because there are so many things we need to do right now. I know the left listens to my show. I know they clip it all the time to find what they can get me in. And I'm not going to give away some strategy. But there will be lots of things I'm going to need our listeners' help on. We're going to be giving you action items. I know a lot of you keep going, Ari, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? There is a plan being formed. I don't want to say it's there yet. It's being formed. The visible part, the invisible part, the behind the scenes part, lots of moving pieces. And me and Zach having this conversation where I've never had Zach on my show before, this is an example of how things are moving in the right direction. Zach Abraham from Bulwark Capital, thank you so much for being so encouraging today. And also explaining the financial stuff. And maybe all those people who are listening right now for all the wrong reasons will go, hey, you know what? This guy makes a lot of sense, and maybe we should reverse course.
Thanks for having me, man. And God bless all your listeners. And like I said, guys, we got a lot of work ahead of us, but gear up for a fight. We got one more good one left in us, and we're going to make it count.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun, actually. Zach Abraham from Know Your Risk Radio, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And I just want to say how grateful I am for this audience. Really, you guys reach out, and even when you disagree with me, you reach out with some great stuff. I got some interesting messages sitting here about the show's content today, which I will respond to as soon as I'm off air today. But really, I love our audience. I love our audience so much. I love our support. I love that you guys reach out when you want to know more about a topic. I love that you come to us for the expertise on that. I do read all of your emails, and I try to get back to them in a timely fashion. So just want to say how much I love you guys. And if it wasn't for you guys, I would just be here talking to Zach. In fact, we probably wouldn't have the money to pay Zach. So it'd just be me talking to myself. In fact, we probably wouldn't have the money for a studio. So it'd just be a crazy guy on the street, which I would probably be getting handouts of drugs from the city of Seattle. So I'm really happy that I have all of you, so I'm not a drug addict on the streets of Seattle. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
That is good news.
It is good news. All righty. From the Good News Network, everybody forgets that the Paralympics are right after the regular Olympics. This one from the Good News Network. Caden Beasley's life began without lower leg bones in an orphanage, but his journey carried him to a loving family in a North Carolina town and eventually to the 2026 Paralympics in Italy. Along the way, he's broken every barrier, overpowered the obstacles in front of him to help bring a gold medal in sled hockey to the United States. I've never heard of sled hockey. I've never seen sled hockey. It sounds awesome. I don't know what it is, but now I'm going to check it out.
It's hockey, but for folks with, I'm not using it as a joke, but there's no legs.
No, I get it, but you're on these sled things.
Yeah, I saw a video. They have like kind of two blades they're very, very close together. So when you watch it, it looks like they're balancing on one blade, but there are like kind of two.
It's awesome.
It's pretty.
I would check that out. Look at me. I'm broadening my horizons. I like the women's hockey. I'll watch this. This is great stuff. I like this. Caden was born as a congenital double amputee above the knee, but at age 3, he was adopted by Anthony and Amy Beasley on Christmas Day, brought up in a loving home 30 miles from Raleigh, with another adopted son from China 3 years earlier. He says, all I've ever known, living with his North Carolina family. When he was 13, somebody at his doctor's office told him about the Carolina Hurricanes Sled Hockey Club, an adaptive version of ice hockey featuring sled-like mechanisms that allow people with disabilities to partake in the sport. His first experience proved to be a resounding success. They said he's a natural. He never looked back. His first international tournament, I think his second game, he was named player of the game. Before long, a newfound purpose and passion overtook his life, setting him skating past any perceived limitations. He was invited to a Team USA development camp for sled hockey and eventually made the team. Then he competed in the 2025 World Para Ice Hockey Championship, where he had 2 goals, 5 assists in 5 games, helping to lead Team USA to a gold medal. This is pretty awesome. I love these kind of stories. You know, this is the kind of story you make movies about. It's been a while since we had good sports movies. I don't know the last time we had a really good sports movie.
I can't think of. Even in my kind of lifetime recollection, I don't think we've really had a great sports movie.
Well, I mean, like, so you're a little young for Remember the Titans.
Sure.
Miracle, you're a little young for.
I guess I think The Blind Side's probably the last really.
That might be the last one.
And that's.
Well, also with revisionist history and stuff that goes on, when you find out all you need to know about that story, it's not great.
2009. That's a good movie, though.
Yeah. Haven't been really any really good sports movies since then. Maybe we're due for another one. I've been watching them with my daughter. She wants to see the inspirational movies and learn how to be an announcer. Well, that's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and more chances to win fantabulous prizes. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.